Americans, I'm Paul Harvey.
If I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness. And I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States.
President Kennedy has been seriously wounded by this shooting.
I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of the serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve. Do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old, I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flame.
The President of the United States is racist.
If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions, just let those run wild. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. I would caution against extremes.
I'm here to warn people. You keep telling me to shut up. This isn't a game.
In hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing.
Now you know the rest of the story.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Diamond Report Live. How about that production, huh? Thought that was one of a kind. I've played that before, but it's been many, many months since I've played it on this show. And I heard recently that Joe Rogan played not that video, but the recording on his show and was just floored by how accurate Paul Harvey was in 1965. And indeed, we are seeing all of those things unfold right now, aren't we? Because we are living in the end times. So that's what this show is all about, the Diamond Report Live. This is your host, Doug Diamond, breaking news that proves we are living in the end times. That's the whole purpose of this show. And I thought we would take a look at some of the headlines and further prove that point as we move forward tonight. It's 9:04 p.m. on March 15th. The Ides of March are here. March 15th, 2026. So, okay. So the big story really the last day or so, I guess, from what I can tell anyway, this one's pretty huge. Given all of the weirdness going on with it, I'm sure everyone out there that's listening to my voice knows all about this. So I thought I would just mention it and won't spend a ton of time on it, but I do think that it's very interesting. Official Israeli video lends credence to the rumors that Netanyahu is dead. Now, as a believer, obviously we want people to have redemption, and we're not going to cheer when someone who is truly evil, which I think Bibi certainly is. If you look at his actions, his fruit, the fruit of his life is complete and utter evil. It doesn't mean he can't come to Christ, as you all know. However, do I think he will ever do that or that he has done that to this point? No, of course not, being a realist. So I would like to just put that on the record up front. I'm not going to be super, super happy to see him alive or dead, either one. So I just feel like, if anything, it helps prove the point that we are indeed living in the end times. We're going to look at something a little bit later that could play out if Bibi is truly out of the way. What could happen next? And I'm going to leave that hanging for just right now. We'll come back to that. And let's look what Hal has to say on his site, halturnerradioshow.com. And of course, there's many people reporting on this. I think his summary is pretty good, though. Last week, word came out that the private home of Bibi had been hit by an Iranian strike. Word came out claiming that his brother had been killed. Now it seems that the prime minister himself may be dead. Now, I think it's been, from what I know, completely confirmed that his brother was killed. I do know Scott Ritter was saying on social media, different interviews and things as well, that was true, that Bibi's brother had been killed for sure. It says, here's just one example of the social media postings showing Netanyahu's home burning after the attack. I'll mute it here, but you can see it burning. And so I guess someone filming out the window right nearby. Below, former U.S. Marine and UN weapons inspector in Iraq, Scott Ritter, confirms the Netanyahu home hit and the brother was killed. That's embedded here. It's mostly, I think, just audio. Well, it's on the screen there too. But you can see the missile come in right there. Iran bombed Netanyahu's home, killed his brother, and then also struck the home of Ben Gvir. He is seriously wounded and may not survive. BBC claims he was in a car accident. Yeah, he was in a car accident by getting hit by a missile, apparently. Scott Ritter says his home is on fire. Maybe he crashed his car into his house. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Ben Gvir, there's so many different people here. I'm not exactly sure who Ben Gvir is, so let's have a look. Let's see here. Ben Gvir, I think he is an Israeli cabinet person. Israeli politician and lawyer who has served as the Minister of National Security since 2022. So there you go. Anyway, that is the other person that we're talking about here. Earlier this week, Israel issued an official speech by Netanyahu about the ongoing Iran conflict, and it's very evident the video was made using AI. So if you stop right there and look at just the fact that there was a video, there's no question, it's 100% confirmed that this video is at least enhanced with AI, if not completely AI. I've made enough AI videos myself to know what to look for. And this one is pretty badly done, honestly. I mean, just to look at it and to listen to it and not pay much attention, you might not notice. But if you are someone who's fairly diligent at looking at things closely, you can see really pretty easily. It says that several segments in the video, Netanyahu can be seen with 6 fingers on his hands. Yeah, and we'll look at that a little bit too here tonight. On other segments, Netanyahu's teeth on the bottom left, looking at him, so over here, disappear. And you can see that here. See, watch the teeth. See, there he has teeth. Now the teeth are gone. Now the teeth are gone. Now the teeth are gone. There he has teeth again. So that is clearly AI generated. I completely agree with that. So why would they put out a video of him being, giving this speech, which I think was all in Hebrew? I'm not really sure what it was about exactly, but suffice it to say, it seems like, from what I've heard, whatever the speech was about, it's not what Bibi would normally talk about. So that's also sort of an odd little thing to look at. So yes, you got the weird, 6 fingers generated. I don't think he's actually a Nephilim, but clearly the thing with the teeth and the fingers are really, really strange. So yes, probably a AI generated video. So and Hal's taking it a step further, saying they're going to have Weekend at Bibi's, going to be propping him up, and he'll be the life of the party. Well, almost. Anyway, so the video from a few days ago, this is dated March 13th. So whenever that video came out, clearly that one's AI. And then today, I saw this, they're calling it Coffeegate already. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu posts video confirming he's alive, but many internet users claim that it's AI. So this one is certainly a lot more difficult to pin down and say, yeah, it's fake. The only thing that I've seen that proves that it could be a little wacky is, watch his, well, you can't see it there. Hold on. Now this video actually does have English translation there on the screen, which is helpful. Let me see if it's this one. The coffee doesn't spill, which is kind of unusual. You know, that's something, usually AI is really good. AI videos are really, really good at doing liquids, generating liquids. So I don't really find that to be that believable, that just the liquid aspect of it now proves that it's fake. I don't know that that's true. It seems pretty real to me, and he clearly holds up hands in front of the camera a couple times, and this one I think is covered up with the English translation. But let me see if I can find it. He holds up his hands here, right there, and you know, obviously he's got 5 fingers, and they look normal. I will say that they look normal in the pictures. Now, in the other pictures we'll look at here in a minute, his pinky finger does not look normal. It's way longer. It's about as long as his index finger. And you can see here clearly in this video that's supposedly from a coffee shop in the last day or so, and he's showing us his fingers because he's trying to disprove that he, you know, that the other video, even though it was claiming he had 6 fingers at times, he's trying to prove, okay, I'm still alive by showing you his hands. But all it does is make you ask the question, why did they take the video they put out a couple days ago and release that with the 6 fingers? So I don't know. Why would they do that? So anyway, here you can see the hands pretty clearly. It looks real. And the people behind him all look real. I don't really think this one's AI generated from what I can tell. But we don't know exactly when this was filmed. Obviously, it has to be pretty new if it's real because he's addressing the 6-finger issue. There's a woman there and some other people behind the bar. The only thing that's weird about this video is that if he's actually in Israel, he's really putting his life in danger by being at a coffee shop on the surface and just talking to people wandering around when anybody at any time could assassinate him or they could blow the building up or whatever. So that part of it seems a little unbelievable to me that he would risk his life. So then you go down the other road of, well, where is he then? If he's truly alive, and that may be, then he's somewhere else. He's probably not in Israel because he's on the surface. He's in a coffee shop. There were rumors that he was in Germany. Could he be in Germany? I don't know. There's no way to tell this from any printing or writing here as far as I can tell. We're supposed to believe that it's truly him, it's really him, and that he is at a coffee shop in Israel just wandering around because the war is going so swimmingly well that he has nothing to worry about, and that he's totally fine, and he's showing his fingers, never mind the fact that they put out a fake video a couple days ago. So, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. That's on InfoWars. And then this one as well. This is kind of the same idea here. This is just showing more of what I already mentioned. Now, Gateway Pundit is super pro-Israel and pro-Bibi Netanyahu. So, you know, they have some good stories on here from time to time, but the Israel stuff I tend to not really trust the Gateway Pundit on. And see, here's somebody with the mask standing right behind him. This guy looks real. And yes, there are still people wearing masks. This sign here, from what I can tell, does look like it's Hebrew, just based on that printing. So I don't know what is going on here. There were definitely rumors of him not being in Israel now. Now here's the other article I found on this website called Vocal Media, and it's called Geeks, actually, Vocal Media Geeks. And then they're saying that this is fake, and this is from the speech where he does have 6 fingers. The image that they've got circled here is clearly an AI-generated hand, but he does have 5 fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But look how long his pinky finger is. And we just saw him in the last picture. It's not really that long. Here it looks a little bit more realistic. Here it doesn't. Look how long they are. But he doesn't have 6 fingers in these particular still shots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He has 5 fingers, so whoever made this picture doesn't know how to count or something. But it is weird looking because his pinky fingers are so long. That's what I noticed. Look how long they are. It's as long as his index finger. See it? So the whole thing is really weird. This video from a couple days ago is clearly AI. For whatever reason, they did put out a fake video. He may or may not be dead. I have no idea. I would be surprised if they killed him that quickly and that easily. Honestly, I would imagine he probably is still around. How did I find out about this? Well, it's everywhere now. But I posted this several days ago on my Facebook page. So if you happen to be on Facebook, I saw this article from Chuck Baldwin, a guy that I really respect and like a lot. And that's the first time I saw anything about, is Netanyahu dead? And that was a question Chuck Baldwin was addressing when he put this column out on March 12th. So I've known about it for 3 days and started posting about it then on my Facebook page. And here's what he says. Iran is reciprocating the killings of their supreme leader and many of his subordinates. The homes of Ben-Gvir and Benjamin Netanyahu were destroyed. Gvir is either dead or seriously wounded. Netanyahu's brother is dead. So this is all true. We know this. This is confirmed. And at the time of this writing, which was Tuesday evening, it's now Sunday, South African presidential candidate Mohamed Vefadag said emphatically that Benjamin Netanyahu is dead. Now, how's he going to know? I don't know. As he and the Mossad chief, David Barnea, were meeting together when an Iranian missile destroyed the Mossad headquarters. So the Mossad headquarters got hit. Bibi supposedly was there, according to this presidential candidate in South Africa. So I don't know. The whole question there seems a little bit suspect to me. It says Barnea is said to be confirmed dead. Netanyahu is presumed dead. As I said, Israel is a total blackout of news coming out of the Zionist territory, so the facts are being well hidden, which means the destruction and body count is likely much greater than any of us in the West are being told, and the longer this war continues, the more devastating Israel's destruction will be. And that's what we were saying last week here on the show, was simply that we aren't being told the truth. Certainly not about what's happening in Israel, but not about what's happening to the American troops as well. We lost 6 more in this refueling tanker that went down in Iraq a couple days ago, and that puts a total at like 13 or so, something like that. So we're in double digits, supposedly, officially. But what's the real number? Is that the real number, or is it much higher? We don't know. So all we can go by is what we're told, unfortunately. So anyway, that is kind of the backstory on Bibi here. And we will come to an article here in a little bit that could explain, okay, if he really is taken out, whether it's now or later, what could be next? And I think it's really interesting. I found a pretty wild audio recording from a few years back that could shed some light on that. And it kind of falls right into what I've been saying all along, actually, as well. So we'll look at that in a minute. All right, Hal Turner Radio Show. One more article from his site. Pentagon reportedly moving Marine Expeditionary Unit to the Middle East. It is moving the Expeditionary Unit, the MEU, Marine Expeditionary Unit, with between 2,200 and 2,500 U.S. Marines being deployed to the Middle East. USS Tripoli, which is what this ship is right here. It's amphibious ready group, along with the attached Marine Expeditionary Unit, are heading toward the Middle East. The word comes about a week after word leaked that members of the 82nd Airborne at Fort Bragg were given pre-deployment notice, also allegedly for the Middle East. All over the country, military experts are saying that if we send ground troops into Iran, it will be the absolute slaughter of those troops, not because the troops are in any way inadequate, but rather because the mountainous terrain completely favors the Iranians in every regard. Yeah, especially those around the Strait of Hormuz. It's just basically a death wall. I mean, it's just straight up cliffs and not much of a beach right there. So any troops that try and go in there are just going to be sitting ducks, it looks like. So anyway, it says all over the country, military experts are saying if we send in ground troops, it could be a slaughter of those troops. This comes one day after numerous sources in the Middle East posted extraordinary claims all over social media that the Iranians used a drone swarm to overwhelm the defenses on and near the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier, which allegedly allowed an Iranian hypersonic missile to slip through the defenses and hit the flight deck, doing massive damage to the vessel. Well, it's been confirmed that that ship has been damaged. I'm not sure if that's what happened to it. But yeah, that is from what I can tell, confirmed. So, and we're supposed to believe that only people were injured there. Rumors spreading today that the claims about the USS Abraham Lincoln is so badly damaged that they had to withdraw and is heading back to be put into dry dock. Yeah, and I think that was the other part of the story that I heard earlier today too, right from Hegseth, saying that it will be sailing back to dock for repairs. So clearly, something's going on here. We're not being told about too much of this stuff because, you can only get this information from alternate news sites like HalTurnerRadioshow.com, which is a good one for sure. All right, and then got a few articles from needtoknow.news. Max Blumenthal says Trump has opened the gates of hell and that Israel is in charge of the U.S. military. Max Blumenthal gives an analysis of Israel's goals and strategies in the war against Iran. The former Israeli IDF chief and one-time deputy prime minister, Benny Gantz, said that he would not exclude boots on the ground in Iran. He was asked if that would include Israeli troops on the ground. Blumenthal was appalled and asked who is Benny Gantz to determine whether there are American boots on the ground. It is obvious that Donald Trump is under Israel's thumb and that the U.S. military should understand that Israel will dictate when Americans will fight and how they will fight and how they will die. He said that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli military intelligence want Americans involved in a bloody, costly ground war because it will guarantee a U.S. presence in the region fighting Iran. So yes, getting us bogged down like another Vietnam, so to speak. Anyway, that is a need to know news article. And a little bit more info and some embedded videos here as well. One of them says unavailable, been removed. So that one's on G. Edward Griffin's site here. I've got a few more from this site. CIA faces furious backlash for hiding Russian document containing potential cure for cancer for 60 years. Something that we've been saying for a while around here that, cancer is something that they've known about and been able to cure for a long, long time. A newly surfaced document based on Soviet research was produced in February 1951, and the CIA had classified and kept it secret for decades. The summary of the Soviet scientific study that examined striking similarities between parasitic worms and cancer tumors was finally declassified in 2014. The researchers believed both organisms thrived under nearly identical metabolic conditions and accumulated large reserves of glycogen, a form of stored energy. They found that certain chemical compounds could target both parasitic infections and malignant tumors. So anyway, talking about how it was hidden. So there's some further information to be found out about cancer and how it was known about as far as the cures go for 60 years. Newly declassified CIA documents reveals that cancer cure was hidden from the public for 60 years. Yeah, parasitic worms, cancerous tumors thrived in similar conditions that could be treated with cheap and very available chemical compounds. Yeah. Not too surprising, is it? They hide it from us. They hide it because they want Big Pharma to make their trillions and trillions of dollars. Condition 1984, Flock AI cameras are surveilling nearly every American across the U.S. More than 80,000 AI-powered cameras made by Flock Safety are actively surveilling nearly every American as they commute to work, walk their dogs, and drive to church. Flock and companies like it are building the foundation for a surveillance state by installing high-tech AI cameras on every street corner, positioning them in every neighborhood, and even launching AI eyes in the sky through a drone network. More than 5,000 law enforcement agencies use the tech in 49 states, Alaska being the outlier. The technology has been weaponized in some instances. Earlier this year, Flock made national news when Amazon Ring doorbell company partnered with them to launch a campaign called Search Party to help find lost dogs. There was a backlash in response to Ring's AI that could find the rogue pets by tapping into everyone's doorbell cameras. Through Big Brother-style surveillance, Ring severed its partnership with Flock. See, they tell us that, but did they really? Resistance to Flock is growing. DFlock is a website and community that reports and maps out the locations of the cameras across the nation. DFlock states that a private company constantly spying on Americans without a warrant or consent is unlawful and very dangerous. So DFlock. It's a good name. The goal, no crime. Yeah, so this is a little background on that. I'm talking about Flock Alpha drones. Can travel up to 60 miles per hour, cover 50 square miles of territory, and even equipped with thermal night vision. Simply put, it can see and access everything and everyone. So, isn't that nice? Connecting with Ring, doorbells, and Amazon, DFlock terrorist resistance. So, DFlock is the actual website, dflock.org. If you want to have a look at that, it might be worth checking into. So, that is a organization that is against what Flock is doing. Let's look at that real quick. Welcome to DFlock, or DFlock, an open source project mapping license plate readers. Automated license plate readers are AI-powered cameras that capture and analyze images of all passing vehicles, storing details like your car's location, date, and time. They also capture your car's make, model, color, and identifying features such as dents, roof cracks, and bumper stickers, and often turn these into searchable data points. These cameras collect data on millions of vehicles, regardless of whether the driver is suspected of a crime. These systems are marketed as indispensable tools to fight crime, but they ignore the powerful tools police already have to track criminals, such as cell phone location data, creating a loophole that doesn't require a warrant. So they're showing this gray Toyota Tacoma here with that license plate and a back rack in the back here and a Raiders football sticker back there. So it's just an example. So something you could check into if you want. dflock.org is where that is. Might be worth having a look. I didn't know about that myself until I just read that last article. All right, I think Candace is doing good work here, and I tend to agree with what she's saying here. Donald Trump has betrayed America. Candace Owens says that Charlie Kirk was the first casualty of the war with Iran, as he opposed it and was an obstacle. She criticized President Trump for promising no more forever wars and marketing himself as the peace candidate when he was campaigning, and then betraying Americans by breaking his promise, which is exactly what he's done. He will tell you that they're not at war, though, with Iran. Gaslighting. She added that both parties, Democrat and Republican, are traitors to the American people. She discussed the depopulation agenda and the desire by those empowered to control procreation and death. Many more issues connected to the war were also covered. So that was a good video. I watched that myself, actually. So it's embedded here. First casualty of war, meaning the truth. And then dives into some of the craziness going on as well with Erica Kirk. So very interesting. Need to know.news is where that article is. And then we've got two here tonight from the Liberty Beacon. Speaking of Trump, what is really going on with Trump? Mark Atwood unpacks it. Yeah, I think he must have one of those brain worms that we've heard about. Or he's just taking too many CV-19 shots. I'm not sure which. We're going to let Mark Atwood unpack this for readers with Rich Does Politics. Alas, he doesn't get around to the stellar work of Derek Johnson, whom Atwood personally knows, but it's only a 30-minute interview. We've fully subscribed to this perspective. It's all about deception. Our notes: Iran's leadership was taken down several years ago. Islam is fundamentally satanic. The Rothschilds were behind this country and most else beside. Gaza had to be done to wake up the public to historical truths about equally satanic Israel. Israel-Iran has been a fake opposition all along. The real Ukraine war was way back around 2014. Putin told us this time around that it was a special military operation, not a war. Russia has been cleaning up the deep state on its doorstep. Venezuela, done way back. Don't forget Maduro's 4 outfit changes on the way to jail. His testimony is due to come out for the public to wake up. So that's interesting. They're saying that that happened some time ago. Cuba, Canada, Greenland, etc. The future's already been laid out for us. We just don't know precisely what it is yet. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I have not listened to this, but feel free to take a look at that one if you want. TheLibertyBeacon.com is where that one is. And we'll link to all these articles in my Substack post that I put out probably Tuesday this week. Tweets of the weekend. Satanic, the lot of them. Tweets not to miss. Here's Bibi with the 6 fingers. Pakistan has joined Iraq, Iran, and Mexico in burning the child trafficking demon Baal with the Star of David on his forehead. The crowd said it symbolized opposition to Israel and global Satanism. There's the Baal effigy here that they're burning. And then it gets into some other craziness here. I'm trying to figure out... Oh, this is just tweets of the weekend. So we have the thing with Baal, and then we have this one about the ice wall. If there's nothing beyond this point, then why have 58 countries banned anyone from trying to explore it? Talking about Antarctica here, went in the ice wall, which I'm not a flat Earth believer, by the way, but some of you guys are, and that's totally fine. It is not a salvific issue, as I like to say. So I thought this one was funny, though, from Lionel Nation, Lionel Media. It says, let us all remember the time before the Kardashian family knew about plastic surgery. Boy, they sure are ugly. Remember Maduro's 4 outfits on his way to jail. They already had it all. So, yeah, there's some interesting kind of summary, different types of things here on this page, different types of tweets. Here's one about Islam and satanic pedophilia, which we know about. That's what they do. They like their little boys. Then here's Bibi with the 6 fingers. All right, so that's some craziness there on the Liberty Beacon. Got some technocracy news articles here. The moral hazards of war and how they accelerate technocracy. So this one is fully open and readable at this point. These do go behind a paywall, apparently, on technocracy.news. I don't really know how soon they do. Probably says here somewhere, but after they're posted, I think it's a few days. Moral hazard is when your brother-in-law borrows your car and drives it like a maniac, because if he wrecks it, it's your car, not his. The risk is yours. The recklessness is his, and the fact that he faces no downside is exactly what makes him reckless in the first place, of course. You could be hoping that he totals your car so you can get the insurance payout. The arch technocrats in D.C. have bonded themselves to our government apparatus in a way that creates multiple and persistent moral hazards that consistently favor technocrats. In some cases, it gives them plausible deniability for their actions. This paper will examine some of the multiple moral hazards that currently exist. War has always served as a crucible of state power. Conflict has reliably expanded the reach of centralized authority, accelerated the deployment of experimental technologies, and normalized emergency governance structures that outlast the emergencies that created them. What's different today is that the beneficiaries of war are no longer simply generals and munitions makers. They are data scientists and AI engineers, surveillance architects, and the venture capitalists who fund them. The moral hazards embedded in this new arrangement are not incidental, they are structural. And they serve, whether by design or consequence, the advancement of technocracy. Moreover, the technocrats have been egging bureaucrats on to make a cover for their own agenda. Technocracy replaces political judgment with algorithmic management, the substitution of data for deliberation, and the elevation of efficiency above liberty. War, it turns out, is most reliable incubator. Yeah. Anyway, further info on that article, technocracy.news. Happy birthday, America. Now, hand over your sovereignty. Yeah, so this is the big year. July this year will be 250 years. No civilization has ever made it that far, or beyond that, I should say. So what does that say? Are we living in the end times? The 250th anniversary will sport celebrations everywhere as technocracy and technocrats slither around to provide the exploding cake. The war with Iran provides emergency powers to do unthinkable and unspeakable things to our nation. Americans are already in a state of shock with the uncertainty of war, which is the perfect scenario for technocrats to practice the science of social engineering. That is the definition, the four-word definition of what is technocracy. It is the science of social engineering. Will Jan LeCun provide the next breakthrough in AI? Mark Zuckerberg just lost his chief AI scientist, who is pursuing a $1 billion startup to get AI right. At 65, investors are betting on LeCun, and it's L-E and then C-U-N. He says that LLMs, which are large language models, are at a dead end and increasingly resistant to new breakthroughs. Instead, he says the future of AIs rests on meaning rather than selecting the next word. If an AI can visualize an object or an interaction, the question to ask is, what does it mean? The answer to that question will deliver the correct response. This would be revolutionary. Yeah, I'm not so sure I want that. I don't know about you guys. Anyway, this is the guy that they're talking about here. This article apparently has gone behind the paywall already, but you can still listen to it by clicking the little listen button there on the article if you're so interested. Rats are jumping ship. Is the Iranian regime relocating to Canada? I think they may have already, don't you? This is not an overnight development that just happened in the past 2 weeks after the Trump administration and Israel launched attacks on Iran. Reports were emerging in January that even while Iranian citizens fed an uprising that led to the murder of roughly 40,000 of them at the hands of the Iranian regime, members of the regime have been quietly relocating to Canada. The news site called Justice in Conflict reported in January that in 2021, the Tehran police chief was spotted at a Toronto area gym. In 2024, it was reported that 700 Iranian nationals linked to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, resided in Canada. The same group has been designated as a terrorist entity by the Canadian government. That same year, 5 Iranian regime figures faced deportation back to Iran. Now, thanks to X, we have almost real-time proof that the IRGC rats are fleeing the ship. So here is a video that's embedded here from X. This says, of course, it would be easy to make a lot of assumptions based on a video that can be very well taken out of context, but then there's this post from X that corroborates the initial X post that went viral. I guess that's what this one is. That's who we're supposed to be looking at here, I guess. Breaking: Iranian regime officials and clerics are reportedly starting to flee Canada out of fear of regime collapse. So you see the people with the bathrobes on. When the Islamic regime collapses in Iran, its rulers will try to flee to Western nations where they will continue spreading their radical ideology. So, and then further information here on this article. We have a name of this Iranian official. I won't try and pronounce it. So apparently that's, according to Canada's Melissa Lantsman, member of Canadian Parliament, that's who this person is. I guess what she's talking about here. So they're showing up in Canada and have been for some time, I guess. So that's pretty wild. Wonder if they can run the war from Canada, do you suppose? That's on PJ Media. So I pulled this up because, well, it's interesting because it's Bigfoot after all, but it's weird. I remember years ago, I've been watching, you guys know who Dutch Sense is, the earthquake guy, on YouTube for many years. And he proved over and over again, I forget exactly what the connection was, but whenever Bigfoot sightings are in the news, within a few days of that, something big happens. And so I just happened to be perusing the news earlier today, and guess what? 8 Bigfoot sightings are in the news. 8 Bigfoot sightings rock Ohio in just 5 days. What? So I'm not really that interested in the Bigfoot sightings per se, because I personally think that it's real. I think Bigfoot is related to the Nephilim somehow, the demonic activity somehow. I don't know. I don't pretend to know. But to me, the more interesting point here is the fact that there are Bigfoot sightings being reported, and it's making the news. And the next step is something big is about to happen. I don't know what that is. But there is a corroboration between those two somehow. And that's something that Dutch Sense talked about for quite a few years. So anyway, this one says, reports of possible Bigfoot sightings in Ohio have grown to 8 separate incidents over a 5-day span between March 6th and March 10th, according to the information compiled by the Bigfoot Society. The organization said the series of reports began earlier in the week, with the first 6 sightings drawing widespread attention online before 2 additional reports were logged Wednesday. According to the Bigfoot Society, these sightings have been described as high-credibility reports submitted by witnesses who claim to have encountered a large, unidentified creature in different parts of the state. The 7th report cited occurred approximately 8 p.m. on March 9th. According to the account provided to investigators, mother and daughter were driving along Route 303. Is it route or route? I don't know. I'm from Indiana, and we say route. Route 303, when they encountered what they described as a large, unidentified figure standing near the roadway. The witnesses said they came extremely close to the figure while driving. According to the report, they came within about 3 feet of the creature as the vehicle passed it. Man, that's close. The witnesses described the figure as approximately 6.5 feet tall and brown in color. Said the creature had a blurred face and moved with what they described as a stilt gait. The report also stated that the passenger in the vehicle could have hit it as they drove past due to how close the vehicle came to the figure. The 8th reported sighting took place the following day, approximately 10:30 a.m. So it's happening day and night, in Ohio at least. According to the report, a resident at a private home said she observed a creature standing outside her window. The witnesses described the figure as a dark reddish-brown creature approximately 7 feet tall. The witness said that she watched the creature for about 30 seconds from inside her home before it moved away. Why didn't she film it? According to the report submitted to the Bigfoot Society, the creature leaned forward as it ran and disappeared quickly near a nearby pond. The witness stated that the figure moved with unusual speed before vanishing from view. She also told investigators that the animal she observed did not resemble a deer or a black bear. So here they are. Here's the different sightings of the Bigfoots, the Big Feet, whatever the plural version of Bigfoot is. I think it's still just Bigfoot. Anyway, it goes on here. There's more information, but all that to say, hey, Bigfoot's in the news, so watch out. Something big's about to happen. It's like those oarfish. Remember the oarfish stories? There's supposedly some connection between the oarfish that they call the doomsday fish being found or being washed up on a shore, and then somewhere in the world, and then something big happens not too long after that. It seems like that one always falls through. But the Bigfoot thing, I think, has been a little more confirmed, from what I gather. Bigfoot and then something big. So let's wait and see if old Bigfoot's right. Maybe he is. Securing the Hormuz Strait should be a team effort, according to Trump. U.S. President has demanded that China, Japan, and other nations deploy naval units to the vital route to protect maritime traffic from Iranian strikes. Yeah, but I thought the ships going to the Chinese ships were being allowed through, from what I heard. Countries that receive oil through the Strait of Hormuz must take care of securing it, Trump said in a post on Truth Social, by adding that Washington will help a lot. The U.S. and Israel began coordinating strikes on the Islamic Republic in late February, triggering Iranian retaliatory attacks across the region. The escalating crisis has effectively shut down the Strait of Hormuz, which carries about 1/5 of the world's daily oil and gas supply, after Tehran barred vessels from countries it considers hostile, sending global crude prices up nearly 50% to about $120 a barrel. Yeah, what's the what are the gas prices in your area? Here, right down the road from where I am, the prices are up $1 from what I paid when I filled up last time. So they're up $1 in like the last week, or 8 or 9 days, something like that. In an earlier post, the same day, Trump said he hoped China, France, Japan, South Korea, and the UK and others affected by this artificial constraint will send ships to the area. I'm not so sure China's affected, but he's saying they are. In the meantime, the United States will be bombing the H out of the shoreline and continually shooting Iranian boats and ships out of the water. So doesn't that make you feel much better about the situation? I mean, they've had control over that strait for so long. I just don't see how they're going to budge one bit. Anyway, he's trying to get these other countries to help. Not so sure that will happen. What's this? AI helps create cancer vaccine for dying dogs. So this is just another article here on the same site. Australian data scientists design an experimental mRNA therapy that shrank tumors in his pet after conventional treatment failed. Yeah, but why did the dog have cancer to begin with? That's what I want to know. Is it from too many vaccines? Is that what it is? Because it seems to me that's probably why the dog already had cancer. That happens so much. We opted years ago when we got our last 2 doggies not to VAXX them, and have never, ever regretted that. So they have been very, very healthy. Let's just say that. No issues. U.S.-Israeli war on Iran wipes out billions off of the Gulf energy revenues. Yeah, Middle East escalation has cut off a number of American allies from the vital Strait of Hormuz. So, we already know this, but further proof here that Trump and company made the wrong decision. Yeah, they've done a lot of damage to the Gulf states, and I don't know if it'll ever be the same. Strait of Hormuz is estimated to carry around $1.2 billion worth of crude oil, refined products, and liquefied natural gas, LNG, daily, based on average prices and volumes recorded last year. Among the halted shipments, crude oil reportedly represents the largest share, accounting for 71% of the total value. At least $10.7 billion worth of crude, refined oil products, and LNG cargoes remain stranded inside the maritime route, according to this person here. Well, this is, I guess, an organization, KPLER. Anyways, yeah, and then I've heard, too, that will also affect shipments of medicines, different kinds of, drugs, for lack of a better term. I mean, they're, whether they're legal or illegal, mostly legal drugs, the big pharma uses are heavily reliant on petroleum type products. So therefore, some of the medicines, you want to call them that, some of the drugs and other things out there that big pharma type doctors push, maybe starting to go up in price and eventually may be hard to get. I don't know. It seems obvious that would be the case because, again, they're connected to these petroleum products. So just be aware of that. Trump demands China and other nations deploy warships to the strait. Kind of what we said already. U.S. leader wants a broad international response to Iranian retaliatory attacks on U.S. and Israeli-linked shipping in the waterway. Yeah, I'm not so sure that they're going to be in any hurry to help. So, anyway, that one is a RT article. Got several from that site tonight. Ethiopia landslide claims 70 lives. Heavy rains have triggered a disaster zone in the Gamo zone, displacing thousands and damaging 190 homes in Ethiopia. At least 70 people have died after landslides triggered after heavy rainfall struck parts of southern Ethiopia's Gamo zone, local authorities said on Friday. The deaths were reported across several districts, with Dagame among the hardest hit. Search teams were continuing operations at the disaster site as authorities work to recover bodies from the debris. 70 people have died in an accident involving landslides. Wow. So sad. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that just because that is not something you're going to hear really much of anywhere else. It is on RT. That's where I found it. I'm worried about Tucker Carlson's safety, according to John Kiriakou, who is a whistleblower. U.S. journalists could pay the price for calling out important people, CIA whistleblower has said. Yeah, I hope Tucker gets him some good protection. I'm not sure if he's got any. I've heard that he doesn't have much. So they might try and Charlie Kirk him too. It's hard to say. The life and freedom of U.S. journalist Tucker Carlson might be in danger. CIA whistleblower and host of the RT program called Deep State, John Kiriakou says. Carlson claimed on Saturday that the CIA is preparing a criminal referral against him to the U.S. Justice Department. What is the crime? Well, talking to people in Iran before the war. They read my texts, he said, in a video published on X. Wow. The former Fox News star said that he will apparently be charged under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. However, he added that he does not expect this to go anywhere because he has never taken any money from another country. He is a member of the press. He can do this type of stuff. He could go interview people and talk to people. But they don't like what he says and the conclusions that he comes to, and the fact that he's anti-Israel. That's what they don't like. So he is a thought criminal, therefore he must be punished. That is what I think. Anyway, that is on RT. We've got several here from WNG. Investigator chosen to probe whether the U.S. bombed Iranian school. So this is, something we mentioned last week. I'm hearing a lot of thunder here where we are, so hopefully our power will stay on. We've got crazy weather coming in today. We're going to look at that in a little bit, but it was 74 degrees today, and it's going to be a high of 34 degrees tomorrow. So we're going to look at that in just a little bit. Hopefully our power will stay on. But if you see anything flickering, it's just my power. All right, so investigator chosen to probe whether the U.S. bombed Iranian school, which we know that's what happened. There was video evidence of a Tomahawk missile literally hitting the buildings. U.S. CENTCOM designated an officer to investigate whether the U.S. strike hit an Iranian girls' school on February 28th. I wouldn't want to be that guy, would you? Imagine going against what the official narrative is. You're going to lose your job and maybe worse. Defense Secretary Hegseth said on Friday, Hegseth did not publicly identify the officer, but said he or she was from outside CENTCOM and would take as long as necessary to fully address the incident. The military will share the truth of the matter as soon as possible, as he said. Iran knowingly targeted civilians while the U.S. did not. That may be the only thing they have going for them, is if indeed it was only U.S. missiles, not also Israeli missiles that hit the school. Perhaps it could be said it was an accident, but I think it was several missiles. So could it have been a mistake that was made multiple times? Or were they using AI to direct some of these hits and it decided that that was the target? I don't know that we'll ever find that out. It says as many as 175 girls were killed in an explosion at the school. I think it was multiple. According to Iranian officials, independent analysis pointed to a Tomahawk missile. There you go. I just said that. Manufactured only by the United States as the source of the explosion. President Trump originally blamed inaccurate Iranian munitions for the incident. Yeah, because he doesn't want the blood on his hands. But it is. The Times cited anonymous military sources saying that the targeted coordinates were chosen based on outdated intelligence data. The school was originally a military building and was near buildings currently used by Iran's Navy. According to the Times, it was likely converted into a school between 2013 and 16, according to the outlet's analysis of satellite data. So there you go. So they had old information. That's why they hit the building. That makes sense. So come clean and admit it. I don't think they will. But anyways, part of the story here, though, that I've heard is that were they using AI to target some of these buildings that they've been blowing up versus, actual humans making the decision. So I don't know. There's no way to know that really, and they're not going to tell us that, I don't think. So here's what I mentioned earlier. 6 U.S. service members killed in plane crash over Iraq. 6 U.S. service members were killed Thursday when a refueling aircraft, part of the military operation against Iran, crashed in western Iraq. U.S. military authorities said the loss of the KC-135 military refueling plane occurred in friendly airspace. 2 planes were involved in the incident, and the second plane landed safely, U.S. CENTCOM said Thursday. The circumstances of the crash were under investigation. Authorities said the identities of the deceased would be withheld for 24 hours until the families were notified. I think some of that information has come out now. The Islamic resistance in Iraq reportedly claimed responsibility for the incident. However, CENTCOM said the loss of the plane was not due to hostile or enemy fire or friendly fire. This is the 4th reported U.S. aircraft loss that has occurred during operations against Iran. Kuwaiti air defenses mistakenly shot down a trio of F-15s. I mentioned that last week, I think. No crew members were killed in that incident. Yeah, because I said, if you have friends like these, who needs enemies? Yeah, the Kuwaitis were shooting down our F-15s. Anyways, yep, very sad. So, yeah, 6 service members aboard the tanker refueling plane. And we don't know the details of that, but supposedly it wasn't friendly fire. It was something else. Perhaps mechanical. I don't know. Cuba in talks with U.S. amid ongoing oil blockade, President says. Cuban officials have been in a dialogue with the U.S. government in an attempt to overcome bilateral differences. Yeah, they don't want to get bombed back to the Stone Age, too. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel said on Friday, the announcement came nearly 6 weeks after Trump enacted a fuel blockade by promising to impose tariffs on any nation selling fuel to Cuba, as JFK said. Talks aimed to determine the willingness of both parties to take firm actions to benefit both nations, Diaz-Canel said. I just realized I didn't turn my chat back on. My apologies. Let me do that. Real quick. There we go. It says the announcement came nearly 6 weeks after Trump enacted the fuel blockade. Talks aimed to determine the willingness of both parties to take firm actions to benefit both nations. Discussions also aimed to identify areas of cooperation for the safety and peace of both countries. Peace and safety. Isn't that lovely? Diaz-Canel described the dialogue as just one piece of a very sensitive process that required great discretion. Cuba agreed to open discussions that will hopefully be based on equality and respect for both states, as well as sovereignty and self-determination for Cuba's government. Yeah, well, and then also if Trump has run out of missiles, I guess that would probably have something to do with it. So something to keep an eye on. They did say Cuba is next. Hopefully they're wrong, but the peace president might strike again. I don't know. Israel wants Turkey to be next, and the U.S. wants Cuba to be next. So maybe it's both. All right, NASA sets April 1st as the new target launch date for manned lunar mission. Sure they do. Sure they do. April 1st. April Fool's Day. NASA's Artemis 2 mission could blast off as early as April 1st. Don't hold your breath, though. Officials from the space agency announced on Thursday the planned 10-day mission is expected to carry 4 astronauts around the moon. 10 days. How are they going to get to the moon in 10 days? The spacecraft will not land on the lunar surface, though a lunar landing is planned for a later mission. I didn't think they knew how to do that. Who are the crew members? So it mentions their names. And Artemis 2 will be NASA's first crewed flight test of the space agency's new Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft. It's meant to conduct tests to ensure the feasibility and safety of long-term exploration and science on the lunar surface. Wasn't it supposed to launch earlier this year? The space agency originally planned to launch the mission in February, but it was ultimately grounded until at least April due to dangerous hydrogen fuel leaks and a helium system malfunction. Yeah, plus also they had freezing temperatures as well in Florida at different times. So I think that helped to push it back as well. I don't think this is going to happen. I think they'll find other excuses to not send this. If they do launch, yes, they can get to low Earth orbit, and that's it. Can they go any farther than that? No. Because remember, in 1971, astronauts supposedly were driving cars on the moon, four-wheelers. But 5 decades later, with millions and millions of times more technology, more better technology, 5 decades later, only dummies can orbit the moon. So talking about orbiting the moon, only dummies can do that because they have to send the dummies through the radiation belt so that they know what happens, because humans can't live through it. And yet, in 1971, they figured it all out and how to get cars on the moon. Those two pictures are courtesy of my good friend Bart Sabrell. He sent those to me and had me put that graphic together for him for his, I guess you could say, article or press release that's getting ready to come out about Artemis. And so this is it. This is the fake and gay moon base coming soon, supposedly. So this is on Singularity Hub. U.S. plans to break ground on a fake and gay permanent moon base by 2030. I'm adding the fake and gay part because that's what it is. Here's what it will take. Finding water, generating power, and sheltering astronauts from radiation are just a few of the challenges NASA must solve. And they haven't done it yet, and yet they're going to send a manned mission from Earth starting on April 1st, called Artemis. I don't think so. It's just so ridiculous. Never a straight answer. So anyway, there is a Singularity Hub article on that whole nonsense if you're so interested in that. Can't imagine that you would be, but there it is. Singularity Hub. And then, so this was another pretty big story this week. Synagogue attacker, this was in Michigan, was on the FBI's radar. He also had contacts on his phone of known Hezbollah members. The FBI followed up on the situation, but it's unclear what the outcome was. Yeah, the Temple Israel Synagogue, Thursday, March 12th, in West Bloomfield Township, Michigan. A man with a rifle who crashed into a large Michigan synagogue in what federal officials are saying was a terrorist attack had been on the FBI's radar for years, according to the New York Post. But they let him do it anyway. This guy who was 41 years old, last name is Ghazali, I guess, was born in Lebanon, and naturalized as a U.S. citizen in 2015. He was killed by security after ramming into the Temple Israel in West Bloomfield near Detroit and driving down a hallway in a vehicle that then caught fire. Yeah. Islamic terrorist that attempted to murder Jewish children was on the FBI's radar, and his brothers were part of Hezbollah. Why was he allowed in the U.S.? Terrorist welcome. Yeah, well, 2015, that would have been Obama, right? Not that surprising. So anyway, that is, I think the main thing that was going here that the school had going for them was that I think it was closed or something. There weren't kids around. Let me see here. Yeah, he was killed. I don't think anyone else was, though. His attack came on the same day as another apparent terrorist committed a shooting at Old Dominion University. Yeah, both of those things happened at the same time. The guy who provided the Old Dominion shooter with his firearm was under ATF investigation for straw purchases once he bought weapons for both the victim and the shooter in a homicide case. So anyway, there were a couple things that's happened this past week regarding what you could call terror cells, although it seems to be just single incidents. But it could be related to undoubtedly is related to the Iranian thing in some way. FBI held active shooter exercise at Michigan synagogue 6 weeks before the attack. So isn't that handy? Temple Israel's staff and clergy participated in an active shooter prevention and preparedness training led by an FBI official. So just a few days before, 6 weeks before, they had a shooter exercise, active shooter exercise. That's always the case, isn't it? The Michigan synagogue came under attack this week when an armed man drove his car into the building, had for months been strengthening its security apparatus by hiring seasoned police lieutenant as its security director and holding active shooter training. They always have the drills. So that was very handy of them, wasn't it? Anyway, I found that one and thought that was pretty interesting about the drills. All right, and then Slay News. We've got a Slay News article here. Bombshell evidence suggests Communist China penetrated the 2020 election. Explosive new revelations are raising serious concerns about foreign interference in the 2020 presidential election, with investigators now examining evidence that the Chinese Communist Party may have infiltrated American voter identification systems. Now it's talking about this guy, John Solomon, who was an investigative journalist being interviewed about this. Solomon is warning that a sweeping intelligence review is underway that could dramatically reshape the national debate over election scrutiny. According to Solomon, senior leadership across America's intelligence community is now examining a newly discovered body of documents that could pose potential Chinese influence operations targeting U.S. elections. Solomon reported that CIA Director John Ratcliffe, FBI Director Kash Patel, and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard are conducting an extraordinary intelligence review involving election systems and voter data. The investigation, he said, is focused on whether Chinese actors managed to penetrate voter identification databases maintained by U.S. states and then use that information to influence operations. If confirmed, such activity would represent one of the most alarming foreign interference scenarios ever uncovered in the American electoral system. Wow. So anyway, yeah, further information about that and further connections, which have always been, really since it happened, have been rumored to be the case. Mojtaba Khamenei mystery. Iran's new supreme leader, rumored dead or wounded in an airstrike, now reportedly taken to Moscow for surgery. So I just realized they have a listen to this article thing on here on Gateway Pundit as well, if you want to listen to the article instead of read it. Where is the new Ayatollah? Depending on who you choose to trust, the new Iranian Ayatollah is well and in control of his country, slightly wounded with a broken leg and facial lacerations, or badly wounded, lost a leg, and is, quote, disfigured, in a coma, or as U.S. President Trump said, not alive. There's rampant speculation over the situation involving the new supreme leader of the embattled Islamic Republic of Iran, supposedly to be leading the fight for the survival of his regime, but actually nowhere to be seen. So yeah, we just don't know. There's no way to know whether this guy is around or not, just like Bibi. So this guy is 56, succeeded his father following his assassination on February 28th, but a string of reports have said that he's been in a coma following an airstrike with some observers. And Trump is suggesting that he is dead. So I don't know. No way to know. So the memes are out there, as you can see. The cardboard cutouts. So that one is a Gateway Pundit article.
According to Hebrew scripture, the 35 acres of land in southeast Jerusalem, known as the Temple Mount, was originally a threshing floor for processing grain and was purchased by King David for the purpose of building an altar. The first temple was built around 957 BC, stood for nearly 4 centuries, and was destroyed in 586 BC. It was this first temple, Solomon's Temple, which became the symbolic importance of the Temple Mount. The Zohar and Kabbalah describe how the demon Asmodai taught Solomon how to control demons, which is how he built the temple. The legend of King Solomon is arguably the foundation of all Western occultism. Compiled in the 17th century from ancient sources, the Lesser Key of Solomon features a catalog of 72 demons, each with a name, a specific set of powers, and a unique symbol so that one can call upon them, as Solomon once did. This tradition of demonology continued on famously with Aleister Crowley in the 20th century and can be seen in the highest levels of Western government today. The Second Temple was built around 516 BC and was destroyed by Rome in 70 AD. The Romans then built a temple to Jupiter on the site. The city was renamed and Jews were forbidden entry. After the Roman Empire transformed into the Holy See, the Temple Mount became a garbage dump until 637 AD, when the second Caliph of Islam conquered Jerusalem and reportedly cleared the area of refuse with his own hands. Decades later, the Al-Aqsa Mosque was constructed and still stands today. In 1099, the armies of the Crusade captured Jerusalem, and for nearly a century, the Al-Aqsa Mosque became headquarters to the Knights Templar, until 1187, when Islam recaptured Jerusalem and the Al-Aqsa Mosque was restored to Islamic worship. Cyrus Ingerson Schofield was a disgraced lawyer accused of forgery and fraud, who abandoned his wife and children and went on to become pastor of the First Congregational Church in Dallas, Texas in 1882. In 1896, Theodor Herzl published Der Judenstaat, the Jewish State, which argued that Jews constituted a nation and required a state of their own. Cyrus Schofield received financial support from Samuel Untermeyer, a prominent Jewish Zionist, and Schofield's connection to the wealthy lifestyle of the Lotus Club in New York City. In 1909, with the prestige of Oxford University Press, a reference Bible was published, with Schofield's own notes printed in the same physical space as the biblical text itself. An ideal format to psychologically fool the reader into thinking these radical ideas are sacred text. Radical ideas such as, in order for the second coming of Jesus Christ to arrive, a specific sequence of events must occur. The modern return of Jews to the land of Israel, the rise of a world dictator, the destruction of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and the construction of the Third Temple of Solomon in its place. In 1917, after the British conquered Palestine, Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour sent a letter to Lord Walter Rothschild, a Zionist leader of the British Jewish community and member of the Rothschild banking family. The letter stated, His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. The League of Nations formally granted Britain the Mandate for Palestine in 1920, and on May 14, 1948, the United Nations planted the official flag of Israel into parts of Palestine, forcing about 700,000 locals to leave. After the Six-Day War of 1967, Israel conquered more of Palestine, including East Jerusalem and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That same year, the new Schofield Reference Bible was published, and evangelical grifters hailed it as prophetic. The Schofield Reference Bible became arguably the single most influential religious text in American Protestantism after the Bible itself. It shaped the theological formation of generations of pastors and evangelists. By the mid-20th century, millions of American evangelical Christians had been shaped by a theological worldview in which the modern state of Israel is a fulfillment of biblical prophecy, and in which opposing Israel's territorial claims is the equivalent of opposing God. Greg Reese reporting.
Democrat representative claims he opposes the Save America Act because women are just too darn busy to get IDs. Does anyone really believe these people? It's so insane. In an interview on MSNBC's Politics Nation with Reverend Al Sharpton, well, no wonder, Democrat Congressman Andre Carson of Indiana says he opposes the SAVE Act, the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility, because women are too busy to get IDs and prove citizenship before voting. Carson was on the show launching his re-election bid for Indiana's 7th congressional district. So it's those crazy Hoosiers again. Yeah, he's thinking that women are just too darn busy to get IDs. And they don't have any way of doing that to prove their citizenship for voting. Total insanity. So anyway, here's the interview where he goes into that. The legislation is necessary to prevent non-citizens from voting and safeguard election integrity, which is the last thing Democrats want. And there's some Republicans, too. Actually, quite a few of them. Don't want any accountability for their crimes. Okay, insane videos. Japanese food truck owner drives burning vehicle across city streets towards the fire station. Oh, well, he was just going to the fire department so they could put the fire out, I guess. What in the world? There are things that could only take place in Japan. Videos are going viral on social media regarding a very unusual incident that took place on Thursday in Kumamoto City, Japan. The owner of a sweet potato food truck caught fire and decided to drive the vehicle to the fire station, dashing across the city in a blazing truck. So you don't believe me? Here we go. There he goes. Down the road. Holy cow. The Japanese owner of the sweet potato food truck decided to drive to the firefighters himself rather than endanger anyone else. So he drove across the city in a burning truck. I mean, it looks like maybe an episode of Dukes of Hazzard or something. I expect him to jump over some huge ravine or something. According to the fire department, the truck for the sale of baked sweet potatoes was driven by a man in his 70s and was able to reach the Nishi fire station. I wonder if they got it put out before it exploded. The blazing truck careened around a bend, music blaring. Wow, he was rocking out too. And lights twinkling from its vendor tray. Thick plumes of smoke spiraled off the truck as it continued down the highway at high speed. The lucky driver escaped unharmed as the local firefighters extinguished the fire. So I guess they were ready for him. The van was burnt to a crisp, leaving behind only a blackened skeleton. One commentator on X quipped, "Japanese society is so civilized that the fires simply drive themselves to the fire station." Wow. There was a little doom break for you. I thought that was pretty good. Yes, here's one on the death shot. We know what that was. Wall Street Journal says more Americans under 55 are dying of severe heart attacks, but scientists still pretend that it's not the CVVAXXs. How could it be? They're safe and effective. So anyway, this is on Wine Press's Substack. Looking to see if there's anything else. Here's the toilet paper fortress. On the 6th anniversary of the COVID pandemic, the world is being thrust into a new catastrophe and climate lockdown with oil shocks caused by the war in Iran. Crisis Economics 101. This latest war is the next leg of the Great Reset launched in 2020, as the world faces supply chain and energy shocks echoing the pandemic. Yeah, that's a good point. The supply chain that this closing of the Strait of Hormuz is going to, and already has, affected is just the same. It's exactly like the whole COVID thing. It's crazy to think, but yesterday on the superstitious Friday the 13th marks the 6th year anniversary of when President Donald Trump, during his first term, declared the COVID-19 an emergency. Yeah. We remember it well, don't we? But we would rather forget it. So here's a rewind here to to all of that. Imagine a VAXX so safe you have to be threatened to take it. And we had the high school kids in the tents. It has been 2,190 days to stop the spread, not just 30. So it's going on here a little bit about the World Economic Forum and all of that. So then it does get eventually down here to Operation Warp Speed Iran. Just as it was 15 days to stop the spread, we are hearing the same thing with the war in Iran, or is it even a war? The Trump administration still refuses to officially call it a war, even though everyone universally agrees it is a war. Just as with the pandemic, what was supposed to be quick and easy operation is turned indefinite. If you're keeping track, February 28th, completely and totally obliterated, Iran war is already won. That was on February 28th. March 1st, they said Tehran will be taken in 3 to 4 days. March 2nd, they said 4 to 5 weeks, no forever wars. And then Trump last night said wars can be fought forever. George W. Bush would be proud. Probably is. Trump said yesterday the war will end when I feel it in my bones, he said. Wow. As it was announced, 5,000 Marines are being deployed to the Middle East. Translation, this, we won't call it a war, will continue in perpetuity, just as COVID officially went on forever, for over 4 years. Just as the Russia-Ukraine special military operation would be over in a month, and Ukraine is finished, the internet military experts have repeatedly told us, while there is no pandemic to worry about, what we do have is a serious energy crisis brewing caused by the war in Iran, and if this does not stop immediately, the ramifications are going to plunge the world into a supply chain breakdown and resource issue. Yeah, which is what I was saying earlier, just with the simple thing of medicines using the petroleum industry. Literally, I mean, that was how it was founded decades ago, on the petroleum industry, and it's still using it today. So yeah, once the petroleum is shut off, the medicines are shut off. Oh boy. Anyways, yeah, it looks like idiocracy. Trump endorses Jake Paul for political office. That is totally idiocracy. Says, this country is a joke. Trump completely and totally endorses Jake Paul for political office. Well, he must be on the right side of Israel. Otherwise, he never would. Yep, there we go. I told you. Mazel tov, yes, I'm Jewish. So, of course he is. He's got the little cube thing on his head and everything. So he is a perfect person for Trump to support. Anyway, that's just a few of the most recent articles on the Wine Press. Pretty good Substack. Okay, and then Operation Epstein Fury. It's Jeffrey's war. Nobody asked for this war, but somebody sure needed it. Amen to that. This is on Wise Wolf. War is a game none of us should be playing. Bill Clinton sat for his deposition on February 27th. He raised his right hand, swore an oath before the House Oversight Committee, and spent several hours answering questions about why he treated Jeffrey Epstein's child trafficking airline like a municipal bus route. The deposition videos were released to the public. America watched a former president try to explain away decades of flight logs with the energy of a man returning a rental car with a dent. He's hoping that nobody notices. I saw nothing and I did nothing wrong, Clinton told the committee, which is technically a complete sentence and also the least convincing denial since Pete Rose swore he never bet on baseball. So hopefully my power is going to stay on. I'm hearing things kind of flicker and flash around me. Hold on one sec. Let me make sure we're good. I think we're still okay. Let me know in chat if you guys are experiencing any dropouts of anything, because I'm still hearing some strangeness occurring around where I am. Just some thunder and stuff. Obviously, I have a storm rolling through. America had questions, big ones, uncomfortable ones, the kind of questions that make billionaires call their lawyers and presidents call their generals. On February 28th, the United States and Israel launched a surprise attack on Iran that killed the supreme leader, his daughter, his grandchild, and over 1,000 civilians in a single morning. So we never really heard about that, did we? 1,000 civilians? Okay, thanks for letting me know, Turtle. Appreciate that. Yeah, so we didn't really know about that. We knew about the supreme leader and his family, but wow, 1,000 civilians in a single morning. The files have become an extinction-level event for the entire American power structure. Congressman Raskin told reporters that Trump's name appears more than 1 million times in the documents, not a typo, 1 million times. Wow. NPR proved the DOJ had deliberately removed FBI interview summaries about a woman who says Trump assaulted her when she was 13. Members of Congress who viewed the unredacted files were stumbling out of classified rooms looking like they'd accidentally watched a snuff film, saying things like, quote, just gross and tip of the iceberg, and a lot of these relate to Donald Trump. The House voted to subpoena Attorney General Bondi because her management of this situation can best be described as a woman trying to put out a grease fire with a squirt gun, while insisting the kitchen isn't on fire and the squirt gun is classified. The squirt gun is classified. And then the bombs. Bombs everywhere. Every chyron switched. Every talking point changed. Epstein who? So it goes on, obviously there's a lot to this because they started the war, as it says here. That's why we're calling it Operation Epstein. This is saying Operation Epstein Fury. I think there's a lot of truth to that, don't you? Leo Hohmann's Substack, NDAA signed by Trump, includes language making it easier to conscript American teens for overseas wars. Language that was slipped into the National Defense Authorization Act. So get ready for this one if you guys have sons or grandsons out there. Congress slipped language into its massive 2026 NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, bill that automatically and involuntarily registers every young man for the military draft on his 18th birthday. This changed the law effective January of this year, so I guess retroactively, to make it easier for the government to mobilize young men for war through a military draft. The fact that this new law took effect just as Trump was angling for war with Iran, and now there is talk of potential escalations involving troops on the ground, is no coincidence, in my opinion. Again, this is Leo Hohmann's Substack. It has been known all along by military experts that ground troops would be needed to pull off a regime change in Iran. You can't simply bomb a regime out of existence. Fighting unnecessary foreign wars that benefit other countries is not in any way related to national defense or national security. And there is no provision for it in the U.S. Constitution, but that has never stopped the neocon cabal running our government, with Vietnam as the most recent example. Ron Paul discussed this important issue Wednesday on his podcast, and it's linked here if you guys want to listen to that. If they can draft you, they own you, Ron Paul says, adding that tyrants need slaves. Who owns you? Who owns your child or your grandchild? Senator Richard Blumenthal, Democrat, Connecticut, said on Tuesday that the U.S. seems to be on a path toward deploying troops to Iran, comments he made after a classified briefing for members of the Senate Armed Services Committee. We seem to be on a path towards deploying American troops on the ground in Iran to accomplish any of the political and potential objectives. There is a coalition forming against the automized military draft. The 30 minutes you will invest in this video below is definitely worth your time. So that's according to Leo Hohmann here, and I would agree. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm planning to. Anyway, further information here, if you've got, again, sons, grandsons, I would say even they could expand it. So it could also be conscripting women and girls too. I don't know. This is only talking about boys here, but something to keep in mind. Just wanted to let you guys know because won't hear about it many places. All right, and another Leo Hohmann Substack. We did mention the school, the girls' school. Well, GOP Senator John Kennedy publicly apologizes for U.S. missile that hit Iranian elementary school, killing 175 schoolgirls and their teachers on the first day of the war. Yeah, President Trump and Secretary of War Hegseth tried to blame the deadly missile strike on Iran and still haven't acknowledged the truth of who was responsible for the carnage. Well, they have a special person looking into it now. We read that earlier. U.S. Senator John Kennedy, Republican of Louisiana, apologized on Tuesday for a strike on an all-girls school in southern Iran that killed 175 schoolgirls and their teachers, and said it was a mistake. When asked on March 7th about the devastating missile strike killing the Iranian children, Trump, without having any information to back it up, blamed it on Iran, claiming that Tehran's missiles are, quote, very inaccurate. In my opinion, based on what I've seen, that was done by Iran, he said. Iran was very inaccurate with their munitions targeting, which is not true at all. But he will gaslight and do anything he can to make himself the story and to make himself look good. Anyway, interesting to see that John Kennedy has publicly apologized. Not that it fixes anything, but at least he said something, unlike the Trump administration. And also, the added bit of information that we mentioned tonight was that that particular building did used to be part of a military building. So that is why it was struck, although no one knows exactly. All right, and then I came across this one on Daily Crow. Lucky Larry Silverstein, remember him? Larry Silverstein from 9/11 fame? Lucky Larry, we're going to call him that. Lucky Larry Silverstein just acquired the second tallest building in Los Angeles days before the FBI issued a warning of Iranian drone attacks in California, which, by the way, I don't think there was any evidence of that, but they did issue the warning. Iranian drone attacks in California. Lucky Larry purchased the Twin Towers 6 weeks before the 9/11 attacks. Yeah, and he had a $7 billion insurance policy covering terrorism. Wow. I don't know if you remember that, but that is the case. He and his two sons, who worked in the World Trade Center, were not there when the towers were imploded because they were running late that day. Yeah, and I guess this is the towers that he has recently purchased, the second tallest building in Los Angeles. So that building is part of the downtown LA skyline. I remember seeing it before. It's been there a long time. So something to watch for. Larry Silverstein acquired the second tallest building in LA days before the FBI issued the Iranian drone attacks warning in California. So I guess the next question would be, I wonder if he got any insurance policies covering terrorism on the building there. I don't know. Doesn't really address that. This is the one that I wanted to. I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, and I'm going to have to unshare and then reshare a different tab here. So let me do that, and we will play this clip. I think it's interesting because, to me, it kind of supports the idea that once Bibi is out of the way, what could be next? What could happen next? And I think it will surprise you. It did me. All right, so we've got the correct audio here shared, and let's go to it. All right, I'm going to back this up just a bit. 1614. So what it says is, this is David Goldberg. He was taken out. That's why it says David Goldberg's final words. Classified documents and White House memos reveal extermination plan for millions of Americans through Project Pogo and Project Zephyr. Published on August 31st, 2019. David Goldberg's final video, it's just audio, it's an audio recording, on June 8th, no cause given. I'm sorry. David Goldberg's final video, he passed on June 8th, no cause given. Yeah, I think there was a lot of people saying that he was taken out, but I don't know that that's been proven. So all that to say, he seemed to know what he was talking about. He was a whistleblower of sorts. Let me back this up just a little. 1614 is the key here, the first part that we're going to hear. The memos, this is the quote, the memos say that Donald Trump will have to declare himself the king of Israel. The memos say that Donald Trump will have to declare himself the king of Israel. Okay? Are you ready? Here we go.
They've done it in America already, but not very aggressively, and we will see more legislation of that nature. But they want to completely eliminate these people because they do stand in the way of the agenda. There are too many people that are waking up. It is way too many for them to handle. They're starting to have an influence, and they're starting to change the conversation online. It is of great concern to Israel. Something that the memos that I received, we'll talk a little bit about the memos. The memos are different from the classified documents. The memos are White House internal memos that discuss a wide range of things in terms of Trump's meeting with rabbis, discussions with Netanyahu over the phone. And one of the memos says that Donald Trump will have to declare himself king of Israel publicly. This is part of the process for them. It doesn't. There's no strategic reason for it. It is symbolic for them. Trump is going to declare himself king of Israel at some point. I don't know how, but they're talking about it in these memos over and over again. When he's going to do it, why they want him to do it, which again is symbolic. It has no strategic purpose, apparently. It is part of the process of the end game, basically, is what I'm saying. So we will see if that happens or not. It sounds ridiculous. I can't imagine him actually saying it. But maybe he will do something like that. We will look out for that in the coming months. Based on my reading of the classified documents and the memos, so much of what is going on is planned. They've given people the impression that Trump has brought chaos to politics, but it's actually the opposite. It has been planned. Donald Trump's allegiance is to Israel. He's not only a Jew, he is a Freemason. They have promised him his daughter, the sons, will enjoy very high-level ranking within the world government that they are forming, the capital which will be Jerusalem. So that is why Trump is so dedicated to following the script, while performing the way that he does. It appears to be very authentic to his followers. Everything he's done, talking about the wall to the fake news, was scripted from the beginning at around 2014 and 2015. And according to some of the memos I'm reading, he loved it. They introduced all of this to him and he loved it. They told him the plan. You're going to become president. You're going to say this and this and this. He loved it. He's already a little bit of a racist. He's already predisposed to some of this rhetoric. So he loved it. He jumped on board. And they promised him great things, especially for his family, if he were to follow through on these things and simply follow their script. And he does have leeway. He has leeway to say many things that he wants to say. He has a lot of fun doing this.
I wanted to just play that for you guys so that you could hear that about not really so much the allegiance to Israel and that now he's a Freemason and stuff. We kind of already knew that. Honestly, but that you can hear from what he's saying that this was all planned out and that he's all for it. But more importantly, that he will have to declare himself the king of Israel. I think that's important because, if Bibi is out of the way for real, which we don't know, obviously we talked about that at the beginning of the show, perhaps he's still alive and that hasn't happened yet. But say that Bibi's out of the way and whoever else, that's heading up Israel gets bombed back to the Stone Age too, because Israel has taken some pretty big hits right now. But perhaps what could happen, I suppose, one thing that I sort of was wondering about, and let me know what you guys think, is that if he declares himself, quote, the king of Israel, he could then appoint or say whoever he wanted to be their Moshiach and to get that third temple building, to get that project going. And we all know he already has a huge affinity for King Charles. He loves the royals. He loves King Charles. And couldn't you see Donald Trump as the Cyrus or the, quote, king of Israel, appointing King Charles to be the Moshiach, to be their Messiah? and having that happen as a following step. Yeah, imagine that says, and he would, yeah. I personally could definitely see that happening. So if say Trump does appoint himself that magically because the other people are out of the way, whether it's Bibi or whoever, and then King Charles steps in, and then boom, we're off to the races. King Charles III, I believe, is the soon-to-be biblical Antichrist. I could see how that could all play out. And I just heard this little blurb today from David Goldberg, and it really got me thinking about that. So let me know what you guys think about that. I think it's certainly plausible. Because I've been wondering up to now, how does King Charles fit into all this? And it makes sense that because Donald Trump loves the royals, he could bring him into this. So, yeah, Napoleon declared himself King of France, Tommy says. Yeah, there's that. So, anyway, I just wanted to mention all of that. Let me go back and reshare the regular screen here. It's going to look the same because I was on the same page, but I just thought that was very interesting, and especially now that this is all kind of coming out at this moment with this huge question that the world is asking about Bibi. Is he even still alive? And as of this moment, I tend to think he probably is. But it doesn't really explain why they made the AI video a couple days ago. Unless he's not in the country. Perhaps Bibi is alive and well, and he is in some other country, which is very possible. I don't know. All right. This is Richard Sauder Substack. It'll be so much worse in World War II. So this is a follow-up sort of thing, a little bit more information. A Substack that I came across earlier today and just thought I would mention it. Again, if you guys are interested in looking at this, I will link to this particular article in my Substack post that I put out on Tuesday. Possibly Wednesday, it just depends on my schedule, but it will be this week for sure. I've been trying to tell people for at least the last 10 years how deeply satanic the entity /thing /fake persona known as Donald Trump and the very evil petrodollar /Hollywood /CIA /Wall Street /Red, White, and Blue /Pentagon /USA with S's dollars Inc. world strangling system really are. I meant to say that this thing called the President of the United States and the Red, White, and Blue USA Inc. global system are sinister, loathsome, and vile to a planet-threatening degree. My efforts to alert to the broader public have gotten me almost killed. This is Richard Sauder saying this. As well as 100% blacklisted by mainstream news and also blacklisted by a big chunk of so-called alternative media. All right, let me skip down to where he's saying what's going on here. The following words are even truer today than when they were written over 400 years ago. Hell is empty and all the devils are here. From The Tempest. The hundreds of millions of projected dead and the infamous Deagle report, which there's a link to that, Deagle report of 10 years ago. Remember Deagle? Are starting to come into clearer focus. Maybe Deagle was off by a year or so in his prognostications, but we should cut him some slack. The unspeakably grim train of cascading events that the Donald Trump thing has unleashed with its highly illegal, immoral war against Iran is going to ravage the whole world, knock the props out from beneath the global economy, slash every class of employment and agricultural production, food supply, in country after country, and by the way, in the process, kill a very large number of people. So that's a good point. As events transpire, it will be done unto the USA. What got me onto this Richard Sauder Substack was that he was talking about the whole Deagle report thing. And there's a link here. I'm wondering if that's a different site, though. Oh, okay. It's just a image of what was on the Deagle report website that now is completely changed. That information is not there anymore. So this is talking about the 2025 Deagle forecast. So yeah, off by a year or two, but perhaps not so off on the numbers. So the the images here are pretty easy to grab and download them yourself if you didn't save any of the Deagle report information and you want to. But it is available from a link from this site. It's on SlideShare, which is a way of sharing images with people. So anyway, I thought it was kind of interesting just because, well, number one, he's really anti-Trump, and that's not that surprising. Many people are, but this whole thing with the Deagle report coming into clearer focus now, even though it's off a year or so, to me, I thought was, worth repeating and very important, actually. Hopefully he's wrong. All right. And then this information came out this week, too. Scottish and Northern Irish MPs, so ministers of parliament, voted on the abolition of jury trials in England and Wales. It says, site of the Magna Carta, 8 centuries of the rule of law. 15th of June, 1215, and they put in the death date here of 2026. They just, photoshopped or image manipulated it in there. But yeah, it's over now, I guess. British MPs voted yesterday to abolish the right to trial by jury for cases with a sentence of up to 3 years in England and Wales. The right to trial by jury of your peers ultimately comes from the Magna Carta and has protected Englishmen and later the Welsh from summary justice. It is a right that we've had for 811 years, and it has been taken away in one day by the British. So again, who's in charge over there? King Charles. Justice is a devolved matter in Scotland and Northern Ireland, meaning the Courts and Tribunals Bill doesn't apply there. Yet, despite having no mandate in England and Wales and their constituents being unaffected by the abolition of trial by jury, almost every MP elected in Scotland and Northern Ireland voted on the bill. It is an indefensible situation where MPs elected in a different country can vote on major fundamental constitutional changes in England, or as was the case yesterday, England and Wales. We need an English parliament. Here's the list of 66, of course it's 66, Scottish and Northern Irish MPs who voted on the bill to end jury trials in England and Wales yesterday. So here's all their names and the parties they're affiliated with and the constituency and country they represent. So Northern Ireland and Scotland. So how about that? They have voted to do away with trial by jury for cases with a sentence up to 3 years. So again, what this is going back to is, for instance, if you get in trouble by posting something on X or by posting something anywhere online, saying something negative or just even talking about what's going on with all of the imported Muslims that they brought into the country, for instance, and how maybe you don't like that, you could get sentenced to up to 3 years in jail, and now there's no right to a trial by jury anymore for you. The judge decides, you go to jail. It's that simple. So that's where we are. That is total insanity.
Well, the Pentagon told Trump not to go to war with Iran because they'd done a lot of the war games, not just militarily, but economically, and said it would basically go from bad to worse. But Trump is the president. He's not a puppet. He does what he thinks is best, and he thinks Israel's right, and that somehow we would have some big, quick, magic victory. He was bolstered by Venezuela, which I was worried about. Venezuela's a totally different situation than Iran. Oil prices are up 11%. They're estimated by the major oil companies and consortiums to double within a month.
You saw prices surge 25%, oil Brent nearing $120. And then there was an FT report just out in the last hour or so saying that G7 members will be meeting later today, early U.S. morning, to discuss a potential joint release of the strategic oil reserves. And then prices kind of tapered a bit. You're still above $100 a barrel, which is huge.
If the strait continues to be cut off, it is causing a cascading effect of the economy. And we've gone over the different economists' analysis. They all agree that a closure of the Strait of Hormuz for 3 months would more than double the price of oil and send shockwaves. It would take, even if it opened back up, many months to reverse. And if you got 6 months of oil prices being doubled, you pack that into the economy as the truest form of inflationary drive, and you get the entire Trump recovery plan 100% dead in the water and the U.S. bankrupt for sure. And a lot of people were like, look, Jones just now discovered that Israel controls U.S. foreign policy. No.
The deadline for attaining this goal is getting extremely close. And Iran, by the way, is also outpacing Iraq in the development of ballistic missile systems that they hope will reach the eastern seaboard of the United States.
They have meddled, and they've been trying to get us to go to full war with Iran for 40 years, and they didn't have full control, or it would have happened. Now, I'm saying now they do, and they're calling the shots. You cut and dry. That's the big demarcation line. The Secretary of State saying, oh, yeah, Israel did this, so we have to. It's that it's cut and dry. There's no debate about it.
Biden released the money, gave it to the mullahs, and the mullahs turned around and financed Hezbollah, Hamas, October 7th, the Houthis, and whatever other terror groups they could fund. That's what happened.
And we got to talk about how we get back control of the country. So Trump's entire agenda to secure the dollar, get us out of the edge of bankruptcy, get tens of trillions of investment in, reindustrialize the country, stop World War III with Russia. His entire laudable agenda is in deep, deep trouble over the Iran situation. He was advised by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the majority of his advisors. The majority said, bare minimum, this is a major destabilizer, will massively jack up energy prices, and will cause a cascading effect. Don't do it. And Trump still did it. And the Strait of Hormuz is still shut down, and it's going to be shut down for a long time because the Iranians haven't even tried to block it completely yet. They just sunk a few ships. And now the U.S. says we're going to escort you through. And they got a bunch of oil drilling rigs that have their own engines and their own systems, and they could just turn those on and send them right out and turn the motors off and deflate them, and they go to the bottom. And the U.S. can sit there and try to stop them while they do it, but the Iranians are suicidal. They'll just continue to do it. Maybe it takes them a few hours until it just, like Tetris, just piles up all the wreckage, and now it's shut. And now, every time we try to go haul it out or dredge it out, they're going to be shooting at us, we'll be shooting at them, and then you know what's going to happen. We've got to send in troops just to secure the IRC headquarters. That's where that little tip sticking down from Iran, that peninsula, that's where the IRC headquarters is, right across from that tip, right on the other side of that island. They got all their bunkers and all their secret bunkers and all their spider holes and all their weapons, and they got trap doors with good old-fashioned artillery, heavily militarized on both sides, and all they got to do is roll it out, and they can sink whatever they want. So that's called putting yourself in checkmate.
Yeah, well, you can kind of tell that Alex is a little more pro-Trump, thinking that that Trump had our best interests in mind while he was doing all of this, and I think many people are realizing that might not exactly be the case. But I thought it was a good video, and it makes some good points about the whole Strait of Hormuz thing and what could unfold. So, anyway, next few articles I have pulled up. 8 Arab and Islamic countries condemn Israeli closure of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So did you guys know that that Israel closed the mosque on the Temple Mount? For the past 12 days, Israel has closed the Al-Aqsa Mosque and restricted movement in the Old City of Jerusalem. So this is dated March 12th, so 3 days ago. A view of the Dome of the Rock in the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, pictured in the Old City of Jerusalem, March 6th, 2026. So it says Qatar, or some people say Qatar, Jordan, Indonesia, Turkey, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the UAE have condemned Israel's continued closure of the Al-Aqsa Mosque during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan for the 12th consecutive day. Wow. A statement published on Wednesday the foreign ministers of the 8 Arab and Islamic countries and said that Israeli restrictions on Palestinian access to the Old City of Jerusalem and its places of worship constituted a flagrant violation to international law, including international humanitarian law, the historical and legal status quo, and the principle of unrestricted access to places of worship. So, wow. Closed the mosque. I wonder how long they're going to leave it closed. Statement added that the entire area of the Al-Aqsa Mosque was exclusively for Muslims, that the Jerusalem Endowments and Al-Aqsa Mosque Affairs Department, affiliated with the Jordanian Ministry and Islamic Affairs, is the legal entity with exclusive jurisdiction. So somehow this is all going to have to change for them to build their third temple, if that's what's going to happen, which sure seems likely. So interesting that they closed the mosque, and it will be also worth watching to see what happens with that. It could be that they'll close it for a while and then reopen it, which I tend to think is probably what will happen. But if they don't, we can pretty much guess what they might have in mind. They may never reopen it, if that were the case. All right, I've mentioned this Substack before, Insight to Insight. Insight to Insight. Israeli law to punish Christian worship at a holy site with 7 years in prison. 7 years in prison for praying to Jesus, ? A bill passed its first vote last month that would hand Israel's ultra-Orthodox chief, rabbinate, absolute authority over the Western Wall, which, as we know, talked about many times, is part of the old Roman fort. It's not at all part of the old temple. And criminalize unauthorized worship with up to 7 years in prison. The same institution has tried to outlaw the gospel in Israel for 30 consecutive years. American evangelicals are funding the government pushing this. We have the details. Also, we'll discuss the Warhawks lying about Tucker's claim that unconditional surrender and ask why there's a mass migration out of the Jewish homeland and what it means about the Zionist experiment. So this makes some interesting points for sure. 7 years in prison for praying to Jesus at the Western Wall. I'm looking to see if there's any other information here. February 25th, the Israeli Knesset advanced a bill by a vote of 56 to 47 that would give the ultra-Orthodox absolute legal authority over the so-called Jewish holy sites. Yeah, and that includes the Western Wall. So it looks like they're trying to basically outlaw Christian prayer in that area. Is that surprising? No, not if you believe that this truly is the end times. I don't think it's that surprising. Not to me, anyway. Brightlearn.ai, revolutionizing self-publishing with AI-generated books. But it's not all bad. I like this idea, what Mike's doing here. Brightlearn AI is a revolutionary free AI platform developed by Natural News founder Mike Adams that enables users to generate fully formatted books, including citations and cover art and PDFs in minutes. It focuses on decentralized knowledge, bypassing big tech censorship and supporting independent authors. It says, unlike mainstream AI tools like ChatGPT, Brightlearn AI explores taboo topics like natural medicine, suppressed history, and geopolitical truths without corporate bias, operating on open source principles. Researcher Corey Andrulot demonstrated how to publish AI-generated books for free using tools like LibreOffice and Kindle Create. Steps include formatting, cover resizing, and transparency disclosing AI-generated content, which you definitely want to do that because you wouldn't want to put out a book and say, and claim that you wrote every word when clearly you didn't, AI did. So yes, transparency disclosing AI-generated content. The platform challenges the corporate-controlled publishing industry by eliminating gatekeepers and reducing costs. No editors or designers are needed, and allowing uncensored content on controversial topics. While AI assists creation, authors must verify facts, especially on critical topics, to combat misinformation. BrightLearn.ai shifts power to independent truth-tellers, aligning with Adams's belief that access to knowledge is a fundamental human right. So anyway, and it talks about how to do this. So if you're interested in publishing your own book, could be about anything. You can do this for free using BrightLearn.ai. And this article details exactly how to do that. And I'll show you guys what I put out. I mentioned it before. This is my Twitter account that I've had for a long time that I use for music business related stuff, because that's what I do day in and day out. I'm in the music business, have been for many years, and I don't actually do live streaming and news and talking about end times for a living. No, this is just a fun thing that I do on the side. Fun in quotes. It's a lot of work. But now I do music stuff, and this is the free book that I put out using BrightLearn. And it did an amazing job on this book. It's called Unlocking the Soundtrack, the Musician's Guide to Licensing, Royalties, and Music Industry Success. So it actually came up with the cover, and it generated all the content for me. I just wanted to try it and see what it would come up with. Here's the book here. You can download it. I've had a few people download it already. Unlocking the Soundtrack, the Musician's Guide to Licensing, Royalties, and Industry Success. Unlock the secrets to a thriving music career with, and then this book is what it's talking about. This comprehensive guide is your roadmap to navigating complex world of music licensing, offering practical insights and strategies to help you maximize your music's potential and build a sustainable career. Dive into the fundamentals of music copyright and ownership, and discover how licensing can create long-term revenue streams that go beyond traditional sales. So it goes on and on. It talks about this stuff. And here's all the table of contents. Everything is hyperlinked. So if you see anything here that you might be interested in reading more about, you just click on it. And it takes you right to that point in the book. It's all done for you, which is amazing. Now, you do have to be a fairly good prompt engineer. You have to kind of come up with what you want it to talk about and then verify what it's going to spit out, essentially. But it was done. I had this whole book created, 600. It was 16 chapters. It's 600 and some pages. I had this whole thing generated for me by BrightLearn in 30 minutes, something like that. I think I had an hour in it total. But it took 30 minutes basically to generate it. And you can download this as a PDF. It's totally free. I don't sell it. I suppose you could. There's probably a way to monetize it. But I figured, that it's their computer system generating it. I'm not going to try and make any money on it. I just wanted to give it away as good information, and information that I have looked over myself and can kind of put my stamp of approval on. And that's kind of where it ends for me. I mean, I'm using it more as a way of, in a way, I guess you could say, marketing what I'm doing and just giving it away. But, it's not a physical book, it's a PDF. Anyway, I thought that was kind of cool, and I wanted to mention that to you guys. This is what I did, but, you can make a book about literally anything. So feel free to have a look at that if you guys are interested. All right, and then let's see here. U.S. Energy Secretary says Iran war will certainly come to an end in the next few weeks or even sooner. So we keep getting this mixed message from the Trump administration. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright joined Kristen Welker on Meet the Press Sunday, telling Americans the war with Iran will certainly come to an end in the next few weeks, and it could be sooner than that. So, is he a liar, or does he know something that Trump doesn't know, or what? Because they're all saying it's going to take, a long time, and then they'll turn around and say, no, it's going to be over in a few days. So I guess it just keeps people off balance a little bit. And then that way, when whatever happens, when the unexpected happens, they'll say, see, we told you that's what would happen. When they've said every possibility of what could happen. So they can never be wrong, I guess. The Hormuz checkpoint claims next victim, world's largest aluminum smelter, cuts capacity. So this one got me thinking. Listen to this. It says the disruption in the Strait of Hormuz is no longer just an energy story. It's now spreading into industrial metals. You know where I'm going with this, don't you? The world's largest single-site aluminum smelter in the Middle East cut its output by about 20% on Sunday, making yet another troubling development for the global economy. The disruption in the Strait of Hormuz is no longer just an energy story. It's now spreading into industrial metals. These second and third order effects could soon disrupt global supply chains and tighten aluminum availability, thus pressuring higher prices. So I'll stop right there. I wonder if that means that some of the nano aluminum that is used in the geoengineering programs could be harder and harder to get. So that by itself is not a bad thing, if that is the case. So I don't know, just something I thought of. So if this affects that in a negative way, that's a plus. If companies like American Elements, for instance, here, let's look it up. We've looked at this before. This, we've determined, Mr. Dane Wigington determined that this company is actively involved. And you can see here on the table here that aluminum is one of their materials that they deal with. And if you go to the page about it, you can go down here, I forget, nanomaterials, I guess. And they manufacture all of these aluminum nanoparticles. So do you suppose companies like American Elements will start having some difficulty getting the aluminum for this nano aluminum that is used in the spray programs? Now, I'm not saying American Elements is involved in the spraying programs, but they are one of the suppliers of these nanomaterials. Them and probably other companies as well. I'm sure it's not just them, but something to think about. So yeah. Anyway, not the B article, op-ed. Let's discuss how dreams of Jesus are spreading in the Middle East and what it means for you. Every once in a while, you see a story that makes your hair on your arm stand up. Not because it's sensational, not because it's unbelievable, but because precisely the opposite. If the God of the Bible really is who he says he is, then this is as plausible as it is moving. Watch this news clip from Pastor John Howerton's interview with Iranian-American evangelist David Nasser. Nasser recounts one of the many reports circulating for years among Christians working in the Muslim world. So I don't have this queued up, but he's talking about, let's see, a man in white appearing to Muslims in their dreams, a man in white. So, and of course that's Jesus. Dreams of a mysterious man in white who later turns out to be Jesus. Let's be honest, stories like these are often met with raised eyebrows in the West, but for Christians who know Scripture, they aren't surprised at all. The Bible is filled with moments where God breaks into human lives to reveal himself, sometimes through visions, sometimes through dreams, sometimes through circumstances arranged so precisely they leave you speechless. At a time when countless prayers are being offered about the turmoil unfolding across the Middle East, stories like this serve as a reminder of what our highest prayer for that region ought to be, that God would draw men and women to himself through Christ. For believers, national rivalries and geopolitical conflicts are real, but they come in a distant second to something far more urgent, the salvation of lost souls. Every Iranian, Iraqi, Saudi, Palestinian, and Israeli is, before anything else, a human being, made in the image of God, possessing an eternal soul and standing in need of the same redemption offered to every one of us at the cross. Yet the most striking part of Nasser's reflection isn't the dream itself, but what it reveals about the way God chooses to involve human beings in his work. And that begins with a humbling reality. God doesn't need us. That may sound blunt, but it bears saying because it reveals something beautiful about the way God relates to his people. Obviously, the God who created the universe with just the spoken word is not sitting in heaven hoping human beings will help him accomplish his plans. He is capable of doing anything he wants, whenever he wants, without the involvement of a single missionary, preacher, or witness. And yet, in his providence, he chooses to involve us. That's what makes this story so striking. The same God who can reveal himself in dreams could just as easily bring someone to faith there in the dream itself. Instead, he also placed a Christian in the room at precisely the right moment to speak about Christ, not because God required his help, but because God gave him the privilege of being used. I think this is pretty amazing stuff. This may be one of the most astonishing realities of the Christian faith. The Lord of the universe invites ordinary people to participate in his redemptive work. He allows flawed, fragile human beings to become vessels through which another person hears the message of salvation. It's hard to imagine a greater honor than that. To be used, even briefly, as an instrument through which someone is nudged closer to salvation in Christ is a gift beyond measure. Which is why stories like this should leave every Christian with a simple but profound realization that at any moment we may find ourselves stepping into a divine appointment. God may have been preparing someone's heart long before we arrived. He may have been working through circumstances we cannot see. He may have been stirring questions about, or doubts, or even dreams. And then suddenly, without notice, we find ourselves in the conversation right on time, exactly where God intended you to be. Isn't that cool? I thought that was neat. I didn't play the video for you guys. It's about 3 minutes long. I guess I could read the captions. I don't have it patched in where we can hear it. Let's see here. So he's saying that the man in white is appearing to Muslims in their dreams. No one, and I mean no one, is beyond the reach of the living God. Well, it doesn't look like it's loading. Well, anyways, I'll leave that to you guys if you guys want to watch that, but that's on NotTheBee. NotTheBee.com. It's a good site. And I guess, the opposite of that good story, we have this one. You've heard of dog and goat yoga, yeah? Well, now people are doing snake yoga. Yikes. If stereotypes teach us anything, is that yoga people are weird, but not as weird as animal yoga people. There's goat yoga, and there's a video here of these goats getting on top of these women, and this one woman gets pretty hurt. Not really injured, but hurt by several goats getting on top of her, like tromping around on her stomach and stuff. There's puppy yoga, the puppy yoga class. There's reindeer yoga. I kid you not. What is reindeer yoga? I didn't even know that was. I knew about goat yoga. That's all I knew about. But there's reindeer yoga. I don't know what that is exactly. But now there's a brand new breed of weirdness that falls solidly into the nope category. Snake yoga. Over puppy yoga, try it with snakes. You've heard of yoga with kittens and goats and maybe even reindeer, but what about a bunch of pythons and one baby Colombian common boa named Mango? No thank you. Yeah, snake yoga. Yeah, that sounds like a worst nightmare type thing. Here's a kid beating a snake up here. First snake that tries to massage me is going to straight into snake hell. Yeah, we remember how Indiana Jones did not like snakes. Snakes Why did it have to be snakes? Anyway, weird. Breaking news that proves we are living in the end times. I think having snake yoga kind of helps prove that, don't you guys? That is some strange stuff. All right, and then vaccine impact. One from this site. Iran is destroying Dubai. This is something I've not really heard about from anywhere. The billionaire's paradise and financial center in the Middle East built by Epstein. Dubai's billionaire playground is being burned down by Iran. And then there's a picture of some different people here. Elon Musk, Kim Kardashian, Tom Cruise, Mariah Carey, Hillary Clinton. Trump touts $200 billion in the UAE deals in wrapping up his Middle East trip. Grooming the Gulf, how Epstein forged Emirati elites into tools for Israel. So, wow. While the U.S. corporate media is now being forced to show some of the damage that Iranian missiles are having around the Middle East, most of the coverage still portrays the U.S. as the one that is clearly winning the war. But all one has to do to see the opposing view is look at what's happening in Dubai right now, which is probably the most modern city in the world, housing the world's tallest skyscraper, the Burj Khalifa, and the playground of the world's richest billionaires. Yeah, as opposed to poor billionaires? I don't know. It is also the financial center of the Middle East, built upon the Jeffrey Epstein financial network. And today it is being utterly destroyed by Iran, while the world's most powerful military is helpless to stop it. Video footage is circulating on Telegram today showing a direct hit by an Iranian missile or drone on the Dubai office of Citibank, one of the largest financial institutions operating in the Persian Gulf. Westerners and other foreigners are rushing to get out of Dubai, where there is utter chaos, and in spite of the UAE ban on sharing photos and videos, there's just no way they could contain this anymore. So Dubai today, they've got smoke rising from all of these huge skyscrapers here. Chaos at Dubai airport again. Mideast war spreads. Death and screams. Iranian drone falls on Dubai's Marina Tower. So there's some video here. I'll mute this. Yeah, you can see it. Different explosions. Smoke erupts from Marina Tower. The video above is from 6 days ago, but now Iran is stepping up their attacks and has urged everyone to get out of Dubai. So anyway, that's crazy. Yeah, I knew they were trying to squash any people publishing videos and stuff, but I mean, I don't see how they can stop everybody, especially people that are leaving town. Like if they're people that are truly getting out of there and have caught videos of different things happening, all they have to do is wait till they're completely out of the area to publish them. Seems to me. Anyway, there's quite a bit of connection here to Jeffrey Epstein. So I didn't realize that as far as Dubai goes, but it does make sense, doesn't it? The Epstein societal class. The Epstein class seems to be ruling the world still. Anyway, that one is a vaccine impact article. Just got a few more here. We can wrap it up. All right. So something to look forward to. Gargantuan hail superstorms. Doesn't that sound fun? Geoengineeringwatch.org. Experts warn about Godzilla superstorm that could change the planet in 2026. Could you imagine? Global impacts could include floods and droughts around the world. Gargantuan hail, destructive tornadoes. Explosive mid-March storm to impact 200 million. We're getting a mid-March storm right now as I speak, hearing the thunder. The consequences of climate engineering and climate collapse are manifesting by the day. Far worse is coming. Time to buckle up. Latest installment of Global Alert News is right here. And again, also on his Dane's Rumble channel and BitChute channel too. So, yes, important information for sure. And I wanted to, well, here, we can look at the scheduled weather here, scheduled temperatures at least. Let's see. So this is a little ways off, actually. This is 6 to 10 day outlook starting March 21st. So 6 days from now, but it's going to warm back up. And these chemical cool downs that they're in process of advancing to us right now is where we are at this moment. But you can see that's kind of by the 21st of March, that's kind of moved out of here. And we're in the, where I am, we're in the above normal bands again. So coming up, it's going to warm up, which is kind of a given. And then to further support that, here is Climate Reanalyzer. This is what's happening right now. We have the chemical cool down coming in from up north. We're 2 degrees below normal, starting really tomorrow. But I'll show you the temperatures here in a minute, and it's pretty unbelievable. Days 4 to 6, you can see that it is starting to warm up out west and pushing eastward. And then by days 7 through 10, we're 15 degrees warmer than normal. Starting, March 21st. So looking back on that first map from NOAA, that kind of matches up with this. So yeah, above normal is where we will be starting around the 21st. But between now and then, it's going to be cold. And that is what they are pushing towards us right now. So here, again, days 1 through 3, days 4 through 6, days 7 through 10. So it's going to be warm, but not in the next couple of days. So here's what we're doing right now, where I am. So this was today, right? 74 degrees today, sunny and nice. You can see that was the high. Look at the low, 36. Tomorrow the high will be 35, which will be probably late tonight sometime. So, and there's a chance of snow tomorrow. It was 74 today. Chance of snow tomorrow. And there probably won't be any. It might be a flurry here or two in the air. Nothing that would stick. But it's going to go from 74 to 35. And then by Saturday, so less than a week from now, it will be 83. So this is further proof. I told Dane about this earlier when I talked to him on the phone today. He's like, yeah, our ecosystem cannot take this punishment that they're dishing out to it. And that's why things are breaking. And this is further proof. Just this 1 week that we're looking at right here. This 1 week is further proof of that. From 74 to 35 to 83, 84 in the span of 1 week. Total insanity. And I'm sure it's probably very similar wherever you guys are. Chances are. So that just proves, I think, further proves that, the geoengineers, whatever they're trying to do is just throwing everything into total chaos as far as the climate goes. March 14th, roundup of climate news. First time looking at this page, so I'm just looking to see if there's anything new. U.S. data shows Arctic winter sea ice could break last year's record low. Yeah, they're measuring, they're calling anything sea ice or ice pack that's just slush. And they can chemically ice nucleate slush and make it look like, that's sea ice. But they've lowered the definition of what they're calling ice pack now because it's melting. And people are expecting a blue ice, a blue, what's called a blue ocean event soon. No telling when, but a blue ocean event would mean basically the ice is melted. So that would be monumentally bad. Because as Mr. Dane says, the ice regions are the Earth's refrigerators. There are Earth's air conditioning systems for the planet. And once they melt, they're gone. Yeah, heat wave shatters March temperatures in Cape Town. I've been to Cape Town. So it's obviously Very warm there. The city came within 90 days of running out of water in 2018. The heat comes after wildfires destroyed swaths of farmland. Wow. So lots of total craziness. Here is Iran's water supply, brink of collapse. Yeah, and I don't think the war is helping it any, do you? India braces for hotter days. Erratic monsoon and super El Nino develops. So it's just more total craziness and insanity on the weather front. We have flooding in Hawaii. Hawaii under state of emergency as Kona storm brings torrential rain, life-threatening flash flooding. So flooding in Hawaii and in Ecuador and in Peru, heavy rains. So, yeah, further proof the climate is off the rails. It's very sad. All right, Israel 365 News. Let's just look. I haven't really looked at this site too much tonight. I did see the main headlines here. The main headlines on Israel 365 News. Iran rains missiles on Israel and pays the price. I think Israel's paying the price too, from what I gather. They're, at least Tel Aviv, I think, is getting hammered pretty well. Israel's health ministry reported that since Operation Roaring Lion began on February 28th, people have been evacuated to hospitals. United Nations condemns Iran for attacking the Gulf states, but not for bombing Israel. Huh. Somehow the UN and all signing nations were able to give a pass for the roughly 300 ballistic missiles that Iran has, I guess, hit Israel with. That's interesting, huh? Iran threatens, vows to kill Netanyahu and threatens Trump too. Well, last week we found a really interesting article on the coming Messiah, the coming Mashiach. There's more on here about prophecy, but I don't see anything specific about the Messiah this week. So anyway, I'll leave that one to you guys if you want to check it out. But yeah, Israel365news.com is what that one is. And I think that was the end of the... Yeah, that was the end of the articles for tonight. So let's just mention this again. I briefly mentioned this last week. Linktree. This is a way to stay in touch with what I'm doing. So Linktree is just a website. Linktr. So it's linktr.ee. Linktree / The Diamond Report. And I can put that banner up on here. Actually, I don't need to. The QR code that I've left on the screen tonight, I did that on purpose because that QR code is a brand new one I put up this week that will, if you scan it, will take you to this same page we're looking at, the Linktree. But this is just simply a, here it is, Linktree, linktr.ee / The Diamond Report. So that is this page that we're looking at, and it's simply all of the different links associated with the show. Pretty much. I think that's everything. I tried to go through everything and put them all on here. So if you're interested in, where's Doug on these different platforms, that is a way to find me. And Substack is one of those. That's the other page I pulled up here. If you guys haven't looked at Substack or haven't, checked that out at all, I would urge you to go there and sign up for free to the email list. That way you'll get all of the links when I send them out on everything that I talked about tonight. So that is one possibility as far as getting on the email list. That's the only way to do that. And then as far as Linktree goes, these top two ones here are the links to help support what I'm doing. If you're so inclined, no pressure, but thank you to those who have and continue to support what I'm doing monetarily. It helps me pay the bills. And for things like software licensing and live stream, monthly payments that I have every month and things like that is not cheap. And I certainly appreciate the help with that. So, thank you to you guys who are helping do that. You can do that through either Subscribestar or through Substack. So if you click on any of these right here, It takes you right to it. So this is the Subscribe Star page, starting at $5 a month. So that is a way to help if you are interested in doing that. So thank you very much in advance if so. And otherwise, these are all pretty much the different video platforms and I guess you could say podcast audio platforms and other social media platforms. So it's kind of all here in one place. I tried to make it easy. It's all right there, Linktree. So again, that's probably the best way to find the Diamond Report, anything and everything. All right, let me see what you guys are saying. Let me see if I've kind of covered the... I tried to take a look at the comments as I was listening to some of the videos earlier, so I don't think there's too many that I haven't seen from early on, at least. Yeah, Matt was here from Australia, so welcome to him. And I was asking him what time it is over there. It was about 1 p.m. over there whenever we started the show tonight. So crazy how it can be, it's a completely different day over there. It's wild. Yep, Paul Harvey sure hit it on the nail, didn't he? Yep, he sure did. The first video tonight was Paul Harvey from 1965. It's so amazingly accurate. When a person is given over to a reprobate mind, odds of returning are so unlikely it might be a miracle. Yeah, absolutely. I think that has to do with Benjamin Netanyahu. Bassett was pulled out of a live interview by Trump and came back rattled. Wonder if he was told of Netanyahu's death. I did see that video. There was a post about that was shared with me on Facebook, and it didn't have a link to the video, but I did actually see that video. And to me, it didn't look like he was that rattled. I mean, maybe a little. I think he was rattled that Trump interrupted him in the middle of an interview or at the start of an interview, and he had to go talk to him and come back. Who knows what it was about? But it could be that. Timing-wise, it would kind of make sense. Matt says, if Bibi went to KFC, he'd have 6 fingers. He'd have 6 fingers to lick. That is funny. That is true. Betty says, the dissertation by Paul Harvey was so spot on, prophetic, still being ignored. I know. I think further proof that we are in the end times now. I don't think there's really much debate about that at this point. Matchik's here. Greetings from Virginia. Yeah, glad you made it. Good friend of mine for a long time. Helping in the anti-geoengineering group of people that are out there trying to stop climate engineering. And it's hard work letting people know about it, that's for sure. Marty says, it's a shame that Candace didn't do any research before joining the Catholic Church. How did she miss that? A friend of mine and I were also wondering that exact same thing. We've had that same conversation before, Marty, and we don't know. We don't know. Other than, I would say this. Her husband is Catholic. So therefore, there's probably a good chance she just didn't research it that much. And maybe didn't know that much going into it. And they got married pretty quickly. I do know that. Like they weren't engaged very long. They just got married almost straight away. So, yeah, I don't know how she missed that, but I think she's pretty invested at this point, so I don't know. It's too bad. Mark says, Bigfoot is connected to UFO activity. Okay, all right, that's good. Good to know. Yes, UAP. Not UFOs, UAP. That's funny. Imagine That says, the figure in the famous 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film, often considered the foundation of modern Bigfoot lore, is depicted as a female, nicknamed Patty. Wow. I did not know that. Has to be February, March, or August, September for it to work. It's the fear of the nuke rather than the actual bomb that they have pushed on all of us these years. Yeah, I think, it's maybe both. We have Yowie men in Australia, same as Bigfoot. Wow, okay. Yowie men. That's funny. I've never heard of Yowie Men before. I don't think. Oh, yeah. Mark mentions the short-term pain for long-term gain. That is a new talking point. Yep, he nailed it. That is a new talking point from the Trump administration. They're all saying that. Short-term pain, long-term gain. Some version of that. There's a video or two out there where people have taken them and compiled together a list of all the different people saying that, and they just play it one after the other after the other. It's quite comical, actually. Yeah, we're talking about the NASA deal, April Fool's Day. They would pick that day. Of course they would. Yeah, it just makes total sense. All those empty Hollywood studios gathering moon dust. Yep, that's right. They'll just fly right through the Van Allen radiation belts. What year, April 1st? Well, this year. That's what they're talking about. They were supposed to do it. They were supposed to do the moon rocket launch in February this year. They pushed it back to April 1st. Don't think that's going to happen. Now, they could launch. I think they probably will have to launch at some point. Otherwise, people will really start laughing at them even more. But, yeah, there you go. Hope the new rockets have had their booster shots. Yep. Good point. But, yeah, it seems to me like they would have to launch at some point. But once they do, once they're in low Earth orbit, they can tell us anything they want. How are we going to know? What does Buzz All Drunk say? I don't know. I know old Buzz isn't doing too well health-wise. He's in his 90s, I think. And we did a report on him, I don't know, maybe a month ago or more. And, yeah, he wasn't doing very well. But as far as I know, he's still around. Israel is a global leader in cybersecurity with its expertise heavily integrated into U.S. government, critical infrastructure, and private sector defenses through deep technological partnerships. That they are. That they are, yes. Yeah, they're involved in these partnerships in all kinds of different countries, not just the U.S. Susan says, Deanna Loper wrote an excellent book on Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah Secrets. Christians need to know. I know, I remember that. Anthony did an interview with her ages ago. Anthony Patch did an interview with her. I think it's still on one of his platforms somewhere. It's been a while now. I'd have to look. A lot of people have no clue about the truth about the difference between Israel and Israel the state and the true people of God. Yeah, the true Israel are the people of God. You guys are Israel, not the little nation state over there. Yeah, roasted potato food truck. I know, I saw, that was crazy. I was thinking that too, actually. And then the new Dukes of Hazzard. Yeah, that was, the truck on fire reminded me of, I don't know why, of the Dukes of Hazzard. There could be another toilet paper shortage as fuel is too expensive to drive raw materials to the toilet paper factory. That's true. We could see another run on toilet paper, just like the COVID era. Targeting young generations by engaging them on platforms like Twitch, games such as America's Army and commercial titles like Call of Duty are used to train soldiers, test decision making. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so then therefore they can start drafting them. Starting the draft. Yep. Creating more terrorists. Yeah, that's a really good point. They're already kind of getting them used to the idea of the whole first shooter mentality. Matt says, I'm in a huge thunder and electrical storm coming now. Huh. Same time that we're getting it. That's crazy. August 2019, then President Donald Trump quoted and embraced comments from a conservative radio host and conspiracy theorist, Wayne Allen Root, who described him as the King of Israel. Oh, yeah, I've never talked to Wayne, but I have heard some of his shows, and I think Richard from Lost Arts Radio, when we were doing shows together, I think he talked to Wayne, maybe just by email, because he was trying to get him to come on the show and be an interview. Never did happen. But yeah, I know who you mean. Wayne Allen Root. Yeah. He described him as the king of Israel. And Wayne Allen Root, of course, is Jewish. I don't know. Tommy says plausible. I think that's probably on what I said with Trump declaring himself king and then bringing in the actual, KC3 king to be the Moshiach. If Trump was in charge and he heard that King Charles III has the lineage and has whatever else in place to be the Moshiach, I think the lineage is one of the main things they look at, then I could see him definitely doing that. So, that's crazy. Yeah, anyway, I think we are about to the end. I just wanted to get through what you guys are saying, and I don't like to miss out on what you guys are saying, but it's hard for me to stop in the middle, and unless it's just a word or two here and there, I can see that, but it's hard for me to stop and read stuff and also talk at the same time. Like I said before, I'm a very slow speed reader. The corporate bias in most AI engines is repulsive. I detest AI in every respect and refuse to engage with it. I know, I remember you saying that you were getting into an argument with ChatGPT about Dane and some other people. Maybe it was just Dane. Coal ash used in jet fuel, a byproduct of burning coal, consists primarily of inorganic mineral matter, including silicon dioxide, aluminum oxide, and iron oxide, and calcium oxide. Okay. Thanks for that information. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and coal fly ash, I guess that would still be, I know that's a base material in what they're using in the chemtrail sprays and stuff, some of the geoengineering stuff, but obviously nanoparticles and some of the other metals that are used to as part of the equation somehow. Tommy mentions the Kundalini serpent. Oh, back when we were talking about the snake yoga, that makes good sense. That's actually a really good point. Yeah, snake yoga. Spraying them with virus infected with the VMAT2 gene. Oh yeah, to get them to not be religious anymore. Was that one? VMAT2, I think it is. Can you imagine Dubai is a spring break destination? Yeah, only for the very, very wealthy, I guess. But not anymore. Not if they're getting bombed. Few days of high temps will encourage spring blooming and sap rise in shrubs and trees. Yeah, we're seeing that around here where I am. That reminds me of something. And when followed by days of freezing, kills the buds and damages the phloem layer of the trees. Yeah, thanks, Betty. That is all true. And one thing that I've noticed around here that's really weird, and tell me if you guys have ever seen this before. So we had this freeze back the last couple days of January, the freeze that just completely shut down Nashville for several days, several weeks in some areas of town where there was no power. And where I live, it shut our power off because of trees being downed and taking down the power lines and stuff. Our power was out for 5.5 days. Now we have a generator. We were able to make things work. It was okay. But none of our neighbors were around because nobody else had generators, and they all had to go to hotels for most of those 5 days in the freezing cold because it was bitter cold. Well, needless to say, there are still trees down all over the place. Many of them have been cleaned up at this point. But there's still piles of trees here and there. So what I've noticed is, and this is weird, the piles of dead trees, some of them, even though they're completely broken and just laying on the ground, are still blooming. Like there'll be blossoms on them or leaves budding out on these trees. Is it because there's still sap in the trees somehow that is allowing this to happen? Is that how that works? I don't really know my trees to know if that's why, but I've never seen that before. I've never noticed that trees that are broken in half, laying on the ground, not connected to the earth anymore, are still blooming. That is so weird. I've noticed that several places around town here. And it's the first time I think I've ever seen it. I should ask Dane about that too. Anyway, I'll get down to the bottom here in a minute, and I will see if you guys say anything about that. But I had never seen that before. I thought that was really odd. Actually, I'm at the bottom. I don't see anything about that. Okay, well, maybe you guys don't know. I'll ask Dane about that because he's like a tree expert. Here we go. Trees are triggered by temperature and time of year and will bloom until they're dehydrated. Okay, so there must still be enough water in them somehow to allow the blooming to occur, I guess. Yeah, that's really weird. And Susan says, thank you, Doug, for always sharing all the relevant information. Much love and prayers for all. So anyway, blessings to you guys. Hope it's a really good week for you all. And stay warm if you're about to be really cold like I am, where we are, at least for a couple days. And then it'll be like 90 degrees again, almost. So looking forward to that. So blessings, you guys. Love you guys lots. And keep the Lord front and center in your life. That is the best thing you can do. And I'll continue to pray for you guys and just ask you keep me in your prayers as well. It's always wonderful for you guys to do that. And I've heard several people tell me that they pray for me and my family and stuff. And that just really means a lot to me. As a fellow believer, it's just so cool to know that other people are out there also praying for you. You know, you have family and people close to you that do that, but just to have other people that you only casually know or sort of know be praying for you because they're believers too just means a lot, I think. So I will try and do that for you guys as well, and know that I'm here if any questions come up. So feel free to leave comments on videos or any places like that, or in the band group. And the band group is now linked on the Linktree page there. You can see it. About the, fifth one down on there. Diamond Report Community on Band. So that's a good place to go if you are not already in the group. If you need any sort of prayer requests, things like that, or you can just simply post some of the things that you're looking at and share them in the group. It's always a fun thing to do. So anyway, blessings you guys. Love you lots, and we'll talk to you again real soon.